Yep.
All right. I'd like to call to order the June 22nd, 2022 Long Hill Township Committee meeting. Madam Clerk.
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting, specifically the time, date, and public call-in information, were included in the meeting that was electronically sent to the Echo Sentinel and posted on the Township website. The agenda and public handouts for this meeting can be viewed online at www.longhillnj.gov. Public comment period will be held in the order it is listed on the meeting agenda.
All right. Let's call Pledge of Allegiance, everybody.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Madam Clerk, if you will call the roll, please.
Committeeman Lavender?
Present.
Committeeman Ray?
Present.
Committeeman Verleza?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Pasurcia?
Present.
Mayor Dorsey?
Here. All right, so the first order of business is a good thing. We're welcoming Jake Rothman to the Long Hill community. Chief, I believe you want to do a swearing in?
Well, you have to do the resolution first.
Okay, I'd like to, resolution to appoint Jake Rothman, a probationary officer in Long Hill Township. Can I have a motion to approve Resolution 22-160?
Motion to approve. Second.
Madam Clerk?
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Ray?
Abstain.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Pasurcia?
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey?
Yes. Chief, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, everybody out in the audience. Real quick before I call Jake Rothman up here to get sworn in by the township clerk, let me give you a little background about Jake Rothman. Jake went through our rigorous hiring program with multiple interview sessions, physical agility tests, and some obviously background investigation, urinalysis, psych evaluation, all the matters that we would normally conduct to select the best candidate for the department and for this township. Jake Rothman comes to us with a lot of experience. He's also a graduate of the Passaic County Police Academy. He attended Morris County Community College. He also attended University of Scranton. One of the highlights of bringing Jake Rothman on, he's very involved in information technology. Specifically, he comes to us with also military experience where he's served his country, and now he'd like to come here and serve this community. He's currently with the U.S. Navy Department of Defense. He is in the reserves. He is also a member of the Pequannock Township Fire Company, where he serves as a volunteer. And we're still trying to work out if you could snatch people from other townships to help locally, but they're working on that. Like I said, I'd like to welcome Jake up here in a moment. He's, as you can see in the support in the audience, he's very well liked, and he has quite a bit of family and friends and a good network. Mainly his mother Beverly and his father Gary will be here, and I'll invite you guys up for the swearing-in ceremony.
So you can stand next to your parents. And you're going to read after me.
Okay.
I, Jake Roth. Oh, right hand on the Bible.
Right hand.
Other hand up. I, Jake Rothman,
I, Jake Rothman,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and in this state, county, and township,
and in this state, county, and township,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties
of the office of a police officer
of the office of a police officer
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability. So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You can come back here.
Hey, congratulations, welcome.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Statement in the beginning, statement of presiding officer? Yeah, she's that.
Oh, okay.
You're out.
This is
No, thank you, congratulations.
Congratulations.
What is it? You know what's the new guy? According to Lisa. Yes, it's a good one. But how many days did they work? Did they work 4 days? 3 days on, 3 days on. Then it's not so bad. Yeah, Mr. Barbow.
Okay.
All right, next we have a brief presentation from some representatives of 12 Baskets Food Pantry, and Miss Pillsbury and Miss Barbow. Come on up, ladies. Is the microphone still on?
Yep.
Okay.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Good evening, Mayor, Administrator, Committee. My name is Barbara Barbeau, for those who don't know me. I'm here this evening to talk about the 12 Baskets Food Pantry, which I've been part of for the last 6+ years. To give you a little back history of the start of the food pantry, All Saints has been collecting non-perishable foods for many years and sharing it with the Food for Friends program in Newark. In 2010, we switched to support St. John's Pantry in Dover. In 2015, we became an agency of the Community Food Pantry, or the Community Food Bank in Hillside, which we remain today. We continued to be open through the pandemic, serving many families in Long Hill Township and the surrounding area that were coming to the pantry on a one-on-one basis. And for the people who were not coming, I was making bags and delivering them. We were also delivering food to veterans at the Valley Brook Village on the VA property, as well as Building 53 on the VA campus. That continued until January of 2022, when we became a cooperative community project with the First Presbyterian Church of Sterling, Myersville Presbyterian, Long Hill Township Volunteers, Long Hill Township CERT, and Community Services. We felt coming together to serve a broader community with more volunteers was worth pursuing. Now, let me bring you up to current. We're currently located at All Saints Church in Millington in the Parish House. We're going to be moving this Sunday to the First Presbyterian Church in Sterling for the summer months. The food pantry is free and confidential. We provide supplemental food for families in Long Hill and surrounding areas. We're open the first and the third Saturday of the month. We also, my daughter and I do a food distribution at the Long Hill Seniors once a month on their second meeting, their second Wednesday. We accept food donations. We have barrels at the inside side door of All Saints Church. Currently, we depend mostly on contributions from Long Hill Township and Bernards Township as well. We do pick up food from the Hillside Food Bank, but since the pandemic, the amount of food available has just declined drastically. I don't know if you have the slide that we had sent. Okay, it's just, there's stats on there. I wasn't going to go over everything, but the first 6 months have been a great success, and our mission to help families, seniors, and vets will continue. We have almost doubled the amount of food distributed since the first quarter, to be exact, like 10,412 pounds in a month. You can see our flyers for hours and location information and donation suggestions. It's posted on the Long Hill Township website, on the 12 Pantry page of the All Saints Millington website, and we have flyers all throughout town. In closing, on behalf of 12 Baskets and the committee, we appreciate you. Thank you, Mayor, the committee, administrator, and we thank you for your continued support. All right, another thing, people often ask, how can we help? By being ambassadors, help us spread the word, increase awareness of growing food insecurity in our township, encourage ongoing food donations, particularly during food drives. And if anyone is interested in helping or volunteering, they could see myself or Shane. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to tell you about our food pantry. Is there any questions?
Mr. Barbeau, the stuff, you can deliver stuff to All Saints basically at any time. Because it's
At
right in the
any
lobby,
time,
right?
the door is always unlocked at the side entrance to the church, not the front doors. There's double red doors at the side entrance, and there's 2 big barrels inside.
Okay, and without getting, obviously everything's confidential, but I think a lot of people in town don't understand. There are people in town that use the food pantry, not just collecting food and shipping it out. I mean, in general, you can estimate how many families or people you service that live within the confines of our town. I think that's very important. People don't realize that.
All right, on the flyer that you have, this month we serviced 19 families, 16 seniors, 24 adults, 17 children, and 60 vets.
Okay, and the vets come from the VA and...
From the VA and Building 53.
Okay, and you said the families or seniors, those are our residents.
Those
Long
are
Hill
our
Township.
residents,
So
Long
basically-
Hill Township residents.
And now I know, just so you know, that I know when ShopRite has the giveaways towards Christmas and Easter, I know that these take non-perishables, but at that time of year, you'll accept those donations too, right?
Absolutely.
So keep an eye on them on social media, because I know, that's where I found out they were doing the Easter donation. Ms. Barbeau posted something on social media, and then I arranged to donate whatever the chicken breast or turkey breast was
Correct.
to them. So just keep an eye on that, because they're very good about keeping things on Facebook or on social media, Instagram, looking for donations. So keep an eye on that, and she couldn't make it any easier. She said, I'll pick it up at your house, I'll pick it up
I
at
do.
your parents' house, I'll pick it up anywhere you want, I'll pick it up at ShopRite if you want.
That's
So-
what I've been doing.
So that's
People
the
give me
point.
their ShopRite cards, yes.
Yeah, she makes it very easy. Just gave her, actually, I think I gave her my ShopRite card number.
Yes,
She
you
went
did.
and got the free thing herself. So they try to make it as easy as possible for you. So they just need help. So if it's as easy as giving a ShopRite card number or just dropping some stuff off, it does make a difference to your neighbors. And like I said, we don't even know, but it is making a difference to the people in our town.
And we do accept ShopRite cards as well,
Like gift cards.
gift cards.
Okay.
Usually in increments of $25 is usually the best. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for the great work.
Thank you.
All right, let's see, ordinance, what's this one? We're ordinance, it's a first reading and introduction of ordinance 494-22. It's a decorum ordinance. I know last meeting Brendan brought up some concerns, and I know he spoke with Jack offline between meetings. I know they worked some of their, not worked differences, but Jack incorporated some of Brendan's concerns into it. So Jack, do you want to explain that?
Sure. I apologize for missing the last meeting. I was hit by a freight train.
Train one.
I don't miss it, it did. In any event, I watched the relevant portions of the meeting. I've also spoken to Brendan in the meantime, and I made some changes to the ordinance. which I think respond to legitimate concerns that were raised by Brendan and others. It imposes a mandatory cooling off period, and it also allows the police officer who's called in to take whatever action he or she deems appropriate under the circumstances. One other thing I'd like to note, just from watching the meeting, the ordinance doesn't require the presence of a police officer. I mean, if there's some kind of disruption at a meeting, you could certainly call the police. It doesn't require that an officer be present, physically present at every meeting. But as a result of those comments, I think it's a better ordinance. And as you discussed at the last meeting, I think it's important that it be implemented fairly. It can't be arbitrarily applied to any person, and you certainly can't cut off anybody because you disagree with the content of their comments.
I agree, and thank you, Jack, and the other members of the committee for listening to the concerns that I brought up, as well as Chief Naga at the last meeting. You know, I just have to say that from a policy perspective, personal perspective, I'll vote no on it, but nevertheless, I do believe it's a much improved ordinance, and as I say, I thank you for the changes that were made.
Any other comments from the committee at this point? Sorry. At this point, I have a motion to approve ordinance 494-21. It'll be at a second reading at another time if it passes, correct?
July 13th.
July 13th.
It's
So moved.
22, right?
Oh, sorry, 494-21.
22,
22, sorry. Okay, you're right, thank you.
Okay, so motion to approve on first reading ordinance 494-22.
Second.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Ray?
No.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia?
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey?
Yes. The second item here is 492 dash, this should be 23 then, Megan?
22.
20, can we just do 22?
492-22.
Oh, 492 dash, sorry, thank you. Sorry. Parking regulations, this is the change of the parking code over by Millington, Millington Savings Bank, where they're putting the new brewery in. So, is there anybody, well, I'll open the meeting to the public right now, if anybody has any questions or comments about the parking ordinance for downtown Millington. Seeing none, Megan, is there anybody on Zoom?
If anybody on Zoom would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Okay, so can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 492-22?
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Lavender?
No.
Committeeman Ray?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia?
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey?
Yes. All right, moving on, this is for the second reading and adoption. Ordinance 493-22, it's concerning campaign signs and basically supplementing and amending Chapter 3 of the Township Code under police regulations. This is where we brought up, it was very confusing where campaign signs could be or not be. I think we tried to make it very clear that it's places they can't be, just so nobody's confused anymore for either the people that are putting out signs and/or the people enforcing the sign regulations. Anybody from the public?
You know, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor,
go
if I could,
Yes.
before the public.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
And first of all, I want to thank DPW Director Al Gallo and his team, because they were kind enough to go out and collect some signs reasonably quickly after the election. And I should have called you, Jack, on this. What I'd like to include, I think the ordinance currently says 5 days after an election, which makes no sense because that's the weekend. If we could add language to the effect that within X, say 48 hours or 72 hours, whatever you come up with, or whatever the committee agrees to, then the township has the option to remove those signs. I don't want to make it a requirement for Al's team.
No.
Because it should be the candidates that are removing their own signs. The way it currently stands, correct me if I'm wrong, it says 5 days. And that's been confusing over the years, where sometimes DPW has kindly gone out and cleaned up those signs. It's not their job, it should be the candidate. But if we put a time frame that makes more sense, and then say, at the option of the township, signs can be removed. Because as we all know, political signs are free speech before an election. And at 8:01, it becomes litter.
Can I, yeah, I thought the 5 days was ambiguous, and perhaps the intent of it was 5 business days or 5 weekdays exclusive of weekends.
So we do 7 days then?
I think the 5 days is just left over. I don't think it's a new
If we could be a little bit more precise.
So we
Yeah.
say
on those.
7 days from the date of the election, because then
That's too long.
too long?
That's way too long.
Yeah.
Personally, I think signs should be gone within 48 hours of an election, but, whatever is the pleasure of this committee. But a week is way too long. You see it on Facebook, and I do not blame the residents. They say, okay, election's over, get your signs. And that almost starts at 8:01 on Tuesday. That's a little bit unreasonable, but I think 72 hours is fair.
As I say, that's left over. The only changes to this ordinance are the underlying portions where we name the locations where you couldn't put it.
Correct.
I think we could probably make that change and still adopt tonight. I don't know about putting in about DPW. Are you just going to invite people then to
No,
leave
just
their
leave it in
signs?
there.
I think
know,
it's,
at
I
the
think it's the
discretion-
it's the code enforcement
The reason I
officers.
said at the discretion of, because I do not want DPW to be responsible to clean up somebody
But
else's mess.
they're not. It's the code enforcement officer, according to our ordinance.
Right.
The code enforcement officer is not going out there and picking up signs. I spent the better
Well,
part
we
of
don't
2
have
hours
one now,
collecting,
because we don't have one. We don't have one now. But in our
Even if
ordinance,
we
in our, I'm
had
saying
one,
in our code, that's
Even
who's,
if we had one, then a code enforcement officer is not going to be able to pick up those signs. As I said, I spent 2 hours picking up 50 signs, because you have to go to each
no,
location.
I know, I'm not debating. All I'm saying is what it says now in our ordinance is the code enforcement officer. That's all.
Oh,
I
okay,
wanted- Yeah,
I'm sorry. Sorry for cutting you off, but
okay. No, that's all I wanted to add, is that it's not DPW in the code. It is,
that's why I said at the discretion of the township. I do not want to put,
Burn anybody, for that matter.
okay.
I'd rather the candidates remove them.
Yeah.
What timeframes do other towns establish?
They have different timeframes. I suspect 5 days, and as I say, I don't know how far back this goes, was just to allow through the weekend to.
So it was probably 5 business days, as
Well,
Scott
it was
said.
five calendar days, I would suspect, because it brings you through the end of Sunday, right?
Yeah.
So
You have the whole
it allowed people, if they worked all week, to
Yeah,
get to
do
the
it on the
weekend.
weekend.
I mean, I think
It's
5
up to
days
you
is
all. I mean,
reasonable.
it's,
Yeah, all right.
It's reasonable
But then that becomes Monday, we agree? It's through the weekend.
it's through the weekend.
5
Yeah.
days after the election.
Yeah.
Right.
All right,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Yeah, 5 days after the election's fine, then if obviously you don't, you can get fined, but just remove at your own peril.
Yeah, what's the penalty for not having removed them?
well, the problem is, I mean, it's easier with the local candidates, but if it's a congressional candidate, who knows who put it up or whatever.
Or a
I think
presidential
local
candidate.
candidates, you can go after the campaign.
What does that mean, go after the campaign?
You could issue a summons to the campaign. I mean, they're
Based
responsible.
on what? It's not in the ordinance.
Sure it is. Violation of any ordinance in the code book,
But the
Subjection.
amount of the summons is arbitrary.
No, go up to $2,000, I think.
you can go up to 2,000.
Oh,
Same as-
okay, all right,
Cap
Same
on
as
any
any
ordinance.
violation.
all right.
I mean,
Isn't
it's not gonna happen as a practical matter probably, but you have that option.
Isn't it a police regulation? So.
Yeah, it's a
would-
police
would-
regulation, yes.
Would, I mean, as a code enforcement officer, therefore,
Well, police regulation doesn't mean it's enforced by the police department. It means it's pursuant to the township's general police powers
okay.
to adopt ordinances.
So like
there are a
having
lot
high
of different
grass,
things.
like having high grass would be under the police regulations?
Right,
Oh,
as
okay.
opposed to zoning. Actually, zoning is also a police regulation, but it's only part of that general category.
All right, so to Brendan's point, I may be in a minority. You think 5 days through the weekend. I say 3 days Friday evening. What do you say?
No, I think Brendan's right, 'cause
All
people
right.
work, have things to do, at least gives them Saturday and Sunday. And you know, look how long it took you, and now you're by yourself, so say you were working, or say you had worked odd hours, or you were away or something.
All right, fair
You
enough.
can't do it.
Or just say you worked.
Yeah.
Did anybody notice the jacket Brendan's wearing?
It doesn't mean you can't take them down before 5.
Yeah, you can take it down
You
anytime
can take
you
them down
want.
that night. It's just, that's when we'll start enforcing the
Had
ordinance.
to beat it
Guys,
out of me, didn't
Lex,
he?
Scott, you have anything?
As far as I was concerned, the problem we're trying to solve here is where you can put the signs.
exactly.
Yeah, that was the purpose of this ordinance.
That's all I'm interested in.
As I say, the 5 days has not changed. I just put that in there to give context
Yeah.
to what we're changing.
Okay.
All right, anybody from the public want to weigh in on this topic?
Charles Renowitz, Millington. It's my understanding that the Millington Volunteer Fire Company and the Sterling Fire Company number 1 are not municipal properties. So the question for Attorney Pigeon, can this regulation be enforced either by the police department or our missing enforcement officer?
Actually, Mr. Aranowitz, my original draft of this did not have those locations for that reason, but the Township Committee thought it would be good to have all the locations listed in one location. So in those cases, it would be up to the fire companies and the first aid squad to remove the signs, just like you could from your front lawn if somebody placed a sign there that you hadn't granted permission for. But it was meant more as a guide with respect to those properties.
The way the ordinance is written, it's misleading. It says they're municipal properties. They're not municipal properties.
They're quasi-municipal properties.
What does that mean?
They're like municipal properties.
They're like municipal properties. I've never heard that term.
Well, it was Committeeman Ray who asked that it be put in there, knowing as president of the Millington Fire Company, he thought it would be useful to have it in there. And I think Mr. Gallo was also present at that meeting and was not opposed to the idea. So, you know, I think as a practical matter, the ordinance is meant more for guidance for the campaigns.
Okay. Well, then why don't we refer to it as these are guidance as opposed to properties owned by the municipality?
Wait, what's the municipal, the municipal center, it's town hall, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
The way, I think the way we did is, look, the majority of the people in town don't know that the township doesn't own either fire company property. That's obvious. However, that people associate the fire companies and the first aid squad with the town just because it says Sterling Fire Company, Millington Fire Company. Now, clearly, I think Millington applies the same policies. You don't endorse candidates at all, right?
We don't.
Yeah, no, Sterling, no, Al said that.
So I think, though, Chuck's got a point. I mean, this is inaccurate, and it could be fixed with a simple change to, you know, abutting the following municipal properties as well as the 2 volunteer fire departments, and I think that would make it
And first aid.
accurate.
And first aid.
The first aid.
And first aid, right? But, no, he has a point, and this is not factually correct.
Oh, yeah, it is, okay. All right, just say abutting such properties. Doesn't have to say municipal. Just take word municipal out, and that fixes everything, right?
Yeah, why don't we say public properties?
Yeah, whatever it is, that's fine. Abutting such public properties then. Does that solve it?
Instead of
Do you
municipal?
think that solves it?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Are we amending it and carrying it?
So, we don't
can
need
amend it
to,
on-
we don't need to carry based on that change,
Okay.
changing municipal to public.
Yeah, we
So
just changed the
If somebody
word.
could move to amend, to change the word municipal to
Scott, you wanna
public.
do it?
Yeah, I move to make the, change
Well,
it
it's
from
still
municipal
open to the public, right?
Yeah. What about anybody?
Well, I don't know.
Reopen it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I make the motion.
You need a second, and then an amend,
Second.
and then a motion, just a voice vote to amend.
No, what I'm saying is,
No, we're not done, they can talk.
We're not done with the public.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
We're just amending
All
the
right, so
wording right
Brendan
now.
seconded it, and does everybody
Understood.
Just voice
agree?
vote.
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Okay,
All right.
so it's been amended, the public hearing is still
Understood.
going on for the ordinance
Yes.
as amended.
So does anybody else from the public have any questions, comments they want to raise about this ordinance? Nobody in person. Megan, anybody on Zoom?
Anybody on Zoom would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. I don't see anyone, Mayor.
All right, so seeing none, can I have a motion to adopt ordinance, which is 493-22,
As amended.
as amended to include public instead of municipal?
So moved.
Second,
Madam Clerk?
Committeeman Lavender?
yes.
Committeeman Ray?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Pasurcia?
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey?
Yes. All right, now we move on to the consent agenda resolutions. One we are pulling out, we're removing resolution 22-179. That one's being removed for tonight's meeting.
There's also some information that needs to be inserted in
183,
that 183, I don't have numbers on mine.
yeah,
Uh,
legal services.
this is the consultant, is that right? I must not have the latest
No,
agenda.
183 is.
183, resolution authorizing professional services agreement. That is with Leslie Parikh of the law firm of Gebhardt and Kiefer at an hourly rate of $185,
Not to exceed, right?
and not to exceed $5,000. With respect to Resolution 22-184, that is a resolution authorizing a contract with, this is
Municipal Resources, Inc.
Municipal Resources, Inc., in accordance with their proposal dated June 3, 2022, it's at an amount not to exceed
2022.
$30,000. That cover it all?
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Anybody want, aside, abstention aside, anybody want any of this pulled out for further discussion?
I'll abstain from 22-176.
I'd like 22-184 pulled out for further discussion.
See, like, you can't discuss it, though, you understand that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I'm discussing is more the reasons why we're having it at all. I mean, $30,000 is a substantial amount of money,
Well,
and so I'm just wondering why we're embarking on a $30,000 endeavour whenever we haven't really even discussed it in public as to the need of it. I don't know if there's ever been any discussion with the chief. I've not been aware of any problems or issues with the police department. I mean, other than the recent budgetary crunch where we couldn't move forward with accreditation as we've done for many years. But that's been the only issue I've ever heard recently with the police department, and now we're spending $30,000, and it just seems a substantial sum of money that.
I think you have to recuse yourself, though.
I mean, okay, you can silence me, I guess. I mean, but
No, I'm not trying to silence you.
I encourage others
Trying to avoid
to
the
bring this
conflict.
up because this is a complete mystery to me, and we're spending $30,000 without actually. I don't know if the chief has ever been asked about it, but we're spending $30,000 and we're for what I don't know. So at least what I'd like to do then is pull it out, and I'll be quiet if the questions that I've raised can be answered by the rest of the committee.
All right, well, yeah, throughout the year, we've had a lot of issues come up involving the police department, including staffing issues, not like how many people we should have, do we have enough officers, we don't have enough officers, issues with communications, with the radios, MDTs, dispatch, purchasing and budgets, accreditation. So, look, Brendan, I think you even agree that none of us up here are experts and know how to run a police department, correct? I think we all agree on that. So I think this would be a good opportunity for somebody to come in that actually knows how to run the police department, that's done it before, and let the township committee better serve and assist the police department itself and get better service to the entire township. I mean, this company, I think it might have been the same one that the fire consulting contract. Obviously, this is not the same people that are doing it because they do fire, not police, but I think it might be the same company, I'm not 100% sure, and we had good success with the last one. So I think we adopted a lot of the stuff. We got actually now 3 new trucks that came off the last one, and since we've had that, I think the communications between the township, both fire companies, and the public at large is much better. So based on the past success and the issues we've having, I think this is better to equip the township committee to better understand what goes on in Mercer Street and for us to better serve them in the future. That's the reason I wanted to do it. At least that's my reasoning.
Okay, I mean, we have 2 liaisons here. And I haven't heard it discussed because everything you said, Matt, you said, yeah, you characterized them as issues, but they're not actually issues. They were apart from anything else, they were equipment issues. They were radio issues that were nothing to do with the police department. It was really the county structure that's in place and the geography of Long Hill Township that made the infrastructure that the county has not as efficient as it should as in other places here in Long Hill Township. The only thing that was mentioned was the that maybe there should be more of a discussion about is the manning, and that was brought up by members of the public. But I mean, this is $30,000. It's a lot of money, and we had we have somebody who's expert in running the police department, and we didn't even have the discussion with him, from what I can tell, about any of this, and that amount of money is an extreme amount of money. Whenever you look at what we did just with the fire department, we had issues between the two fire companies, and there was a fire study that was that was commissioned to try and make things better, and things were resolved. But that was a situation which had become, in many respects, untenable, and it was allowed to go on for a number of years before that study was commissioned. This is coming right out of the blue, and it's $30,000. And I don't know how anybody. I mean, obviously, I'm abstaining. I don't know how anybody in good conscience can take $30,000 of taxpayers' money without going to the department command staff right now and going through some of these issues and asking them why. And now we'll be quiet.
Well, we'll vote on it separately, but again, like I said, as you said, the fire department situation came bad. You even said it should have been addressed much earlier on. We all agree on that. So this is a situation that we can come in there now. I mean, as we've only been the appropriate authority for what, less than a year, right? I believe it's less than a year, and that's why we get this done now. So going forward in the future, it's just going to be better and easier to manage for everybody with better communication. And like I said, maybe we don't have the problem with communication with the county in the future. Maybe we don't have these issues coming up in the future, just because we know what to expect better, and we can service the police department and the community better. I think that's my position.
But I'm sorry, but again, we've got two liaisons here, and it's never been brought up that there are issues, and we're spending $30,000. And this is astounding to me that we would have $30,000 of taxpayer money over something. Every issue that you just mentioned could be resolved by talking to the chief and the command staff in Long Hill, in the police department, and it could be it could be done for free. We're saving $30,000. That's extreme. And this is a committee that has nitpicked over all kinds of things, minor amounts of money, and we're spending $30,000 on this.
Well, that's, like I said, it's still. I'll pull that one out to vote on individually. Let's deal with the other ones first. Aside from where Scott's abstaining, what is it? 22. This is just a motion to approve 22. What's it? 161, Megan?
Correct.
Through 183.
Removing 22-179 and Committeeman Lavender abstaining from 22-176.
Correct. So, can I have a motion to approve those resolutions?
So moved.
Second. Sorry, Beck.
Committeeman Lavender.
Yes.
Committeeman Ray.
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Pasurcia.
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey.
Yes. All right, now on 22-184, we can obviously avoid, Brenda's got to abstain on this, but a motion to approve 22-184.
So moved.
Second.
Well, before I vote, I just want to point out something that was said at the end of the last meeting, and it was me who said it. There remains a question regarding the radios and what the issue was there, and that's the reason why I had suggested that we talk about it in detail at a future meeting. We heard here some of the concerns of the radios and when it started, which kind of surprised me that it started in 2015 or whatever it was, I forget the date. But we received a report from the county that directly counters what has been said here, both by some on this committee and by members of the public. So for me, I just want to know what happened so it doesn't happen again. So that's an example of why I think this study would be beneficial to all of us, wherever it leads. If in fact it was the responsibility of this committee, or whoever the liaison was during those years, that's fine. If not, we need to know that, and so does the public. And so that's just one benefit of a study like this. And to my understanding, this is not uncommon, these kind of studies. Matt? I mean, I don't know, who knows? I mean, this is not uncommon.
No, I mean, these companies are in business. Clearly, they're not just waiting for us to call. They have plenty of references in their thing. We spoke to other companies. They all gave references. They're all throughout the country. So it's not, these are nationwide services. They do it all over the place.
And this is worth $30,000, Guy.
But
I think we spent more on the fire.
No, I think it was 29, actually. And to tell you the truth,
28,
just-
sorry.
Right. So and just on the subject
This
of
is
the
how much?
fire,
28, right?
no, it's just 28 right now. This is not to exceed 30, but the quote's 28.
28, that's correct.
so
And what did we spend on the fire?
28 or 29.
Basically the same. All right.
There you go.
Okay, so but just so we know about the value of these studies, because I'm not talking about police, I'm talking about the fire study, because I was somewhat intimately involved with that and the lead up to what happened, to the commissioning of the study and the study itself. The study was put in a drawer, and none of the of the recommendations were actually implemented. The one person who actually brought the two fire companies together was Chief Naga. Chief Naga brought two of the representatives of both companies, sat down, and he worked through basically a peace treaty which stands to this day. And so it wasn't the study, that's the value of the study, and I think the residents should know about that. The studies don't do anything. Especially whatever, if you're going to use the fire study as a justification for this, it was Chief Naga that actually led to the current good relations between the two fire companies. And $30,000, I still haven't heard anything that justifies this without, first of all, sitting down with the experts, whether you do it through the rank and file with the command staff and the chief. That doesn't cost you anything.
All right, Megan, call the vote on 22-184 with Brendan abstaining, obviously.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Ray?
Abstain.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia?
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey?
Yes. All right, moving on, liaison reports. Scott, I know there's a lot going on in rec starting now.
Okay. This week, the first of the summer concerts is this Saturday night at Sterling Lake. All the concerts are family-free events and are going to go on until September 1st. Everyone is invited. Bring a picnic dinner and join us on the beach. Limited parking, carpooling, and walking is encouraged. And also thank you to our sponsors, Gary Giannakis of Weichert Realtor, Mary's Your Name Here, the Scream Truck, and Allstate Insurance, Grant Patulski. Our flyer is on our website. And after this concert, there'll be another 9 more this summer. So you can find the flyer on the town website on the rec page. Still a couple more days left to enter the Spring Fever Photography Contest. That runs until June 30th. And summer camps start on Monday. So campers get ready for that, both the pre-K camp and grades K through 6 camp. And they're packing the trucks now with all their supplies to have lots of fun with the campers on this Monday. And then lastly, fall field hockey registration for grades 5 through 8 is open. This is open to residents in Long Hill, Warren, Watchung, and Greenbrook. The cost for that is $145 per player, plus uniform if needed. You register on Community Pass. Practices start August 22nd, Monday, Thursday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. in Cantor Park on the turf. And the games are primarily Sunday afternoons, 9/10 through September 10th through November 6th. So that's all for rec. Thank you.
Vic?
The police liaison report for June 22nd, 2022 is as follows. Self-initiated activity and calls for service year-to-date, 9,754. School activity year-to-date, 1,256. Motor vehicle stops year-to-date, 824. Motor vehicle crashes year-to-date, 88. Community policing and proactive residential radar posts, 781. Arrest incidents year-to-date, 13. and actual subjects, both adult and juvenile, that were arrested are 14. Major incidents. The Long Hill Police Department assisted New Jersey Transit Police with a fatal train accident on June 22nd. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the families and victims of this tragic event. Community policing, there's nothing to report. And that concludes the Police Liaison Report for June 22nd, 2022. Thank you. I almost had it perfect and I blew it.
Brendan, you got anything?
No, nothing.
All right. Guy?
Just one quick update from the Chamber of Commerce. They had an event on Monday evening. The mayor was kind enough to attend, as was Committeeman Ray, and I was there. Many topics were discussed. A big shout out to Gary Giannakis, the president of the Chamber. He's reinvigorating it and even improving on what was already a great organization. One thing I will point out, if there are any business owners in town, the county has a program, an SBA grant program. It is not a loan, it is a grant program. It started in March. $10 million was the initial funding. They're down to about $2 million. Okay, it's declined, but there is still money available. Deputy Director of the Board of Commissioners, John Krikis, was kind enough to join the conference call with Gary Giannakis yesterday, I guess it was, went over the details. I don't know if we have that website. It's the county website. If you go to the county, it's right on the top. It's flashing red, if I remember correctly. It's intimidating when you first look at it, but there are 3 parameters that matter. You have to have been in business in 2019. You had to suffer a loss in revenue, not loss. You didn't have to have an income losing year. Just if you made $100 in 19 and you made $90 in 20, you would qualify. And I believe the cutoff is 25 employees, but it's on the website. And there's a help number right there for anybody that stumbles through. Generally speaking, John Krikis pointed out that it's about an hour, so it sounds like a lot, but the program is for $15,000, so I think $15,000 is well worth an hour of your time. So any business owners in the audience, anybody watching at home, you're more than welcome to reach out to Megan or me, or Matt for that matter, or Brent, whoever you feel comfortable reaching out to. But I would strongly advise you to apply. And Commissioner Krikis said he would estimate that the money would kind of run out in about 4 to 6 weeks. And so it's not a calendar deadline, it is a math deadline. Once the money runs out, the money runs out. So the sooner the better, and I know at least 2 business owners as a result of the meeting on Monday evening did in fact apply.
And Nick from Gluten Free said it was actually very easy to apply.
Oh, so
Yeah.
then that's the third one.
Yeah,
That's
Nick
the
said
third
he's the one
person.
that did it first. He said it was very easy to apply and was user-friendly, so.
And 2 others since then have applied. So, please avail yourself of that. The program is there for you. And that's
All
it,
right.
Mr. Mayor.
DPW, Al, do you have any more mulch left or not? Very little. There's very little mulch left, so if you want some, I suggest getting down there as soon as you can to get it, or calling to schedule a delivery. What do you do, Fridays you deliver? Mondays and Fridays you deliver, so it's not even July yet, it's almost gone. So get down there quick. They're repairing and rebuilding stormwater catch basins on the roads that are being paved this year, so keep an eye out for them. They finished the first round of the side road vegetation in the shoulders. They're finishing that up this week. They've been out doing lawn maintenance on the township properties. I saw them mulching down at it is a township property, not the community center. They're mulching and sprucing up the front of the building. And if you have any problem when you're recycling and you're not confused about anything, they put up a bunch of new signs to make it very user-friendly. The signs are picture signs. Just grab somebody. There's usually somebody wandering around the yard. Feel free to go into the building. You're allowed in there if you need somebody. Just ask for help. It's that simple. And please continue the recycling. Everybody's been doing a great job. And Al's going to have a pretty big announcement for you in a couple weeks, which is another good thing. And I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but Al has been working with the schools through Mr. Nestler and Dr. Mucci to implement some new recycling programs in the schools. and we're going to coordinate with the schools that we can help them and they can help us. I think it's going to be very successful. The schools are trying to be a sustainable school, and a lot of the initiatives, and Mr. Grosskopf's here from the Board of Ed. So, but the school's very big on changing LED lighting, doing upgrades for infrastructure that are more energy efficient, and obviously the recycling, and teaching the kids how to recycle and repurpose things just around the building alone that wasn't recycled in the past. So so far it's been a very positive joint venture for everybody, and I'm not going to be insulted when I say he's a recycling geek, and so am I. So Al's always looking for new ideas, new programs, and it's really working out for us. So thank you, Al. All right, administrators report.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to give an update on the community bus. Now that that it's been in service for a little over 6 months. There are an average of 8.6 passengers per week. So they operate on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The biggest attraction is ShopRite, which is on Thursday. But the average over the bus driver reports to me at the end of every week how many people he's had per day, and it's an average of 8.6 per week. And we do only pay him when...
per week or per day?
No, it's per week. So I added up the... So,
is there any way we can get that?
Exactly,
up?
yeah.
get more people.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying, we try to advertise it. When he's not driving people who make reservation, when he doesn't have the scheduled, like there's the schedule for the nutrition, there's the schedule for ShopRite, and then every other Wednesday they go to the, or one Wednesday a month to the Walmart Shopping Center and then Blue Star Shopping Center. So when he's idle, like he's waiting to pick those people up, we've put it out there that if somebody needed a ride to go, to the bank or something, we'd be happy to do that. We don't really have any takers yet for that. So I'm kind of hopeful, like I said, it's been about 6 months. I'm hopeful as word gets out that he'll become more popular. It'll become more popular, more used. We only pay him for the time he works. So we're not wasting any money. We just need to...
Yeah, I agree with Committeeman Ray. Hopefully, because I remember during the pandemic when we had a couple of residents coming up and on social media, the reason we didn't do the bus during the pandemic, and it was at the wise advice of Committeeman Ray, who is a virologist, we weren't going to stick elderly people in a small confined area. But now that we've introduced this again, I must say I'm a little bit surprised that there are so few passengers during the course of the week, and we have no real restriction. If you want to go to a doctor, you want to go shopping.
I'm not going to bring you to Passaic County for a doctor's appointment, but
No, the restrictions that we have are that it's in town.
Okay.
Right, anywhere you want to go in town, except for the 2 trips out that we take, per month.
and Charlie's at the senior center a lot. Like he's there, so he's visible, and the people see him. I've been there and I've seen him there when they have meetings. So he's around.
What would be useful is, how many frequent flyers are there, individual people?
Well, it's pretty much the same people,
So it's 8 people using the bus.
give or take. Give or take. What's interesting is in the very beginning, the first couple weeks, there was a lot more. There was 15 people one week. So I don't know, maybe people just want to get out in the beginning, in December.
Or maybe
and
it's
then
not
kinda
convenient
dropped
the way
off.
it's set up.
Well, we set it up the way in conjunction with Nancy Mink from the Senior Center. We moved the schedule we adjusted it to what they wanted. Just this week, the bus driver asked me if he could get more hours, and I said, I can only give you the hours for when we have passengers. And he received another job offer, and in lieu of him taking that other job offer, he is working out, I believe he's already taken a job with Berkeley Heights for Mondays and Fridays, which is fine because we didn't really have any takers on Monday and we didn't offer anything on Friday. So
Yeah, look, at some point, I think the person that's providing this service deserves a minimum number of hours, regardless of whether he's used. I mean, we can't afford to lose the.
Well, I didn't want to lose them. That's why I said, okay, go to Berkeley Heights on Monday and Friday, you know?
No, I agree, but I'm shocked that.
I mean, keep in mind, we pay $35 an hour because that was what we had to do to get him. So, you know, if you want to pay him a minimum number of hours, it's going to,
I understand.
I could talk to him. If he's guaranteed a certain number of hours, tell me how much I can spend. You know, maybe he would do less hourly.
Did he suggest a number of hours?
He did not. He did not suggest that.
So maybe Shane can do some kind of a survey with Nancy's help for the residents that use it and find out if there's a better way to schedule
Or additional trips or something that might attract
additional
more.
trips. You
Yes.
know, is there some sort of inhibitors to them using the service?
I'll ask her to find out.
I mean, it's worth asking.
Yeah, maybe
Yep.
maybe they want to go to Bridgewater Mall once or twice a month. They might get 15, 20 people on that.
Yeah, the thing I'm concerned about is like the bus is not in great shape. It's an old bus. So that's why I really don't want it to go very far. You know, I'm a little concerned about
Well,
it
I'm sure it
breaking
can make
down.
8 trips a week, so.
No, I know, but to go to Bridgewater, not that it's that far.
Yeah, fair.
You know, so we did expand. There's a market down 22. So the days they go to Walmart, you know, we expanded it to a trip down there. I know that Shane has asked about going to a farmer's market in New Providence. I think we could probably expand to that. That's not too far. There's one in Summit too, I think.
Yeah, these are all great ideas. I mean, anything that
Yeah,
can
just-
drive some use of it, I think. And so if Shane thinks it's a good idea,
Or maybe we
Yes,
have to make the
but-
difficult decision, give another 6 months and decide whether this is really something that's viable that
Fair.
we just shouldn't be doing.
How much do we spend a year on this? Roughly?
well, it's only been.
Well, it's only been 6 months.
Half year.
At $35 an hour. I added up the number of passengers. I didn't add up the number of hours. I can report that to you at the next meeting.
My question is the word out? Like,
At the senior center, definitely, there's no
right,
doubt.
but how about aside from the senior center, is the word out maybe, and I'm not saying it's not, but are all seniors aware that we have this service, and can Shane help us get the word out?
So that's what I asked her to work on. I did change the title of it to community bus so that it could be open to people who are not seniors, you know,
don't have
people
the
who
car,
don't
as
drive
you
or
said.
whatever. So we advertise it, you know, on LHTV. It's on our website. I mean, I could just refresh those. I'll put
Maybe
it on
social
Facebook
media?
again. Yeah, I mean, it was there originally. I mean, I could just keep it, you know, put it on more frequently. But I think that and I've kind of relied on Shane to let the people who are not seniors know. You know, she deals with people that may need rides, so hopefully she will, she did have one person who used it a couple times, you know, but that I think is a way to get the word out to people who might need it.
Thank
So.
you.
Nancy, have we looked at the increase in fuel charges for this? Because, I mean, I imagine it's a lot, whatever we budgeted is like way off at this point.
Well, our fuel is, at our last bill, I think we paid $3.21 a gallon. Because we don't have to pay the taxes.
Yeah, don't pay taxes.
We're right, we get it through a shared service with Basking Ridge.
Yeah.
So we're not paying the same amount that everybody else is. It's still an increase from what it was.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but we have a general fuel budget. We don't have it specific for
Okay.
this.
Me too.
Okay?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we revisit this maybe in 3 months and then 6 months, but come the end of the year, we should, if this is keeping up, I think we have to make the difficult decision to yank it. Nobody's using it.
And
Okay.
Maybe provide an alternative transportation to those who do need it?
Like a voucher or something.
Or
Like an Uber voucher.
something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, we can talk about that, I guess, then. We did look into that. It's very expensive.
But in the interim, I agree with Vic and Scott. Let's really kind of advertise
Market it
this. Let's
better.
push it
Yep.
as best we can. And as Brendan said, if in 6 months' time, it's still the same, we may have to make that difficult decision.
Okay,
Fair enough. All right.
okay. I wanted to report that, if you recall, I'm actually not sure when it was, but within the last 6 months or so, Harrison Quinn, a Boy Scout, came in and asked you about doing his Eagle Scout project. He was going to create flag boxes and for disposal of proper disposal of flags. He completed his project, and he made 3 boxes. 2 will be one at each firehouse, and he will be putting one out by the library book depository boxes right out here on the plaza. They're bigger than I expected. They're almost the size of a blue, those blue recycling tins. Right? It's a little bit taller than that, and it's about as wide. And I know that at DPW, they have a small box, and they fill up very fast. So there's a video that we have on our website that shows how there's this whole ceremony that you do, and they actually cut it up and they burn it. It's the proper way to dispose of a flag. So the video, if anybody's interested, is on our website, and the box will be out here shortly.
And Nancy, if I could just say, there's one appeared outside Millington Fire Company, and it's already been used. It's very impressive, and many thanks to that young man for doing such a great service.
Yeah, it is a good service, and I appreciate the fact that he made them able to withstand the elements to have them outside, because we didn't really have a good place to put it inside. So,
Yep.
And I think the same thing at the firehouses as well.
Yeah, it looks terrific.
Yep. So I want to congratulate him as well on this project. And then some sad news for us, Vinnie Franchino, who's been our plumbing inspector since, for 15 years, since 2007, is leaving. He's resigning, and for personal reasons, and so we will need, I just got notified yesterday, so we'll do a resolution at the next meeting, and we do have someone who's been filling in for him from Warren, and I'm hopeful that he will be able to continue. We're going to put an ad on our website and, to find his replacement. But he was very sad to go. And then some good news for people who need to schedule inspections. You can now apply for your inspections online through SDL. You can go on the construction page, and it gives you instructions for, you pick 3 dates and times, and then it will be, the inspection will be scheduled. So it's a convenient way. Everybody likes to do things online. So I want to thank Megan and Denise Charlton, who's our technical assistant to the construction official, for putting all that together. And, you can already pay online, and now you can make your appointments online as well. So we're finally moving into the modern technology world. That's all I have.
All right. With discussion items, with some furniture discussion item, Nancy?
I got an email from the library director. She has wanted to put some furniture out on the plaza, that area outside the sliding doors, for a while, and they did get a small grant, she said, and she would like to put 2 sets of tables and chairs. You have the pictures there. She'd like to put them out just in the, it was in your packets, just in the nicer weather. They would be taken back inside for the winter, because I know that we had talked about problems with snow plowing or whatever, or shoveling. So she sent you the pictures. She had one gray set of with 4 seats and an umbrella, and one set with 2 seats, which is blue. So because it's our property, she wanted to know if you thought it was okay.
Isn't my Jersey City coming out? Are these things going to disappear?
I would think not. I mean, I can't imagine that it would, but we do have cameras there, so.
Fair enough.
Does anybody have an issue with putting those tables out?
No.
We want everything to match, right?
Well, it'd be nice if it looked nice, but.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I could mention that to her. you know, I don't know how much money they got in their grant. I can't imagine that it would be that much to get two of the sets that have the 4 chairs to be able to accommodate more people. I could tell her that that was what you guys said, that you thought that they should match.
If they don't match the same style, it's 2 instead of 4, right? As long as it's the same thing.
But we want it to look nice, we want it to be durable,
Hey, you said with umbrellas?
used.
She said one
Utilized.
umbrella. So the plan she had was, if you look at the picture, only one of the tables would accommodate an umbrella. So, I mean, ideally, we'd like, right, 4 chairs with 2 umbrellas.
I mean,
So they would
Ideally.
be responsible for bringing the umbrellas down during windy days, right? So they understand they're responsible to maintain.
Yeah, I'm
Won't
sure
hit
she
the door
understands
or
that.
anything like that, break it.
So to your point
She's-
about the amount of the grant, do you think it's possible that she didn't get a second umbrella because they didn't have
Yeah.
enough funds? And if so, can we assist in some way?
I think that might be the case, and in which case, I'm sure we could find a few dollars to help her out if you want 2 the same, with 2
Absolutely.
sets of umbrellas, yeah. And I'm sure, I mean, she's very responsible, and, you know, she would take total ownership of them, so I'm sure she'd be fine with bringing the umbrellas in when need be. You know, if God forbid there's gonna be a hurricane or something. I'm
The
sure she'd
library
secure it.
board are wonderful, so, and
Yeah,
anything
they are.
you need, I'd like to help. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think I do speak for everybody.
I think it's a great idea, grateful for the grant. Let's go. Let's make sure it's
Yeah.
nice.
I think the only thing, because when this has come up in the past, we talked about, you know, it may end up in, you know, there may be more trash if people are sitting there eating or whatever. I guess we'll have to monitor it and see how it works out, you know.
That's fine.
We haven't heard from our rec director lately. Hopefully,
coming up.
no, I know. Hopefully the fields, it's gotten a little better. I don't know how. Yeah, she's not entirely, huh?
Well, we can bring her up next. So the next thing, actually, Lisa and Mark with the township engineers got some news for us. They want to come on up.
Good evening, Mayor,
Thank you, Mark.
committee members. Last time we had spoken and presented some options to you for parking in Myersville Field. After hearing some of that feedback, we went back and we were able to refine that plan based on the feedback we've gotten. Our final preferred plan, we actually had 2, but the real preferred plan is in both options, it nets 48 parking spaces. That gives you some 90-degree aisles off of New Vernon Road, excuse me, and the preferred plan has the 1 pickleball court at the extreme southerly end of the tennis courts. We're able to salvage 3 sides of the fencing around the tennis courts. We're able to get a conforming pickleball court within the tennis court footprint in that area. And I was able to locate some old plans from the tennis courts back in 1990 when they were resurfaced and all that. So assuming all that was accurate when it was constructed, the tennis courts and basketball courts were constructed on a 5-inch base course with a 2-inch surface course. So we've got an adequate asphalt section there. So the plan would then be to mill the top 2 inches off the existing asphalt areas, which is the tennis courts and basketball court. The gravel areas which front the 2 courts, and the existing parking area would be excavated out. We'd excavate that down 6 inches, put a new base down, and then retop everything with fresh asphalt, supplement the fencing, and provide 1 conventional pickleball court. We're actually able to get I forget the acronym of the organization that regulates the size of pickleball courts, but using their information, there's some desirable sort of buffer areas around the courts. We're actually able to get the desirable buffer area. So we've got optimal conditions for the pickleball court. We'll enclose that with some new fencing along the southerly end of the courts, and then provide a series of aisles that would net 48 parking spaces at that field.
And this will be regulated, whatever that means. reducing the size to fit the space.
No, that's
This is a
correct.
full-on
This is a
pickleball
conforming court. The conforming courts, the standard dimensions for the courts are 20 by 44, and then there's some buffering that goes beyond that. So we'll get a 20.
And you have enough buffering as well?
We have enough, but we have the desirable buffering. So the out-to-out dimensions, you can kind of see it there on the plan that there's 2 dashed lines around the court. So the outer dashed line is the desirable buffer. So that's a 30 by 60. If we're tight because we're working within the fence of the tennis courts, we don't want to move those two fence lines if we can. It may be 59 and a half, so we might lose, a few inches here and there, but we have the desirable buffering for, we don't have to undersize the court, and we don't have to crimp on the safety zones we have around the court. So we'll get a desirable playing field for the one pickleball court.
Mark, as I'm looking at it, and it could just be the fact I'm looking at the diagrams that you have here, it just seems to me that there's not a lot of room in some of these parking spots, and I know that they meet code and all the rest of it, right? But practically, as I think about the traffic in ShopRite and the parking situation, and there's a lot of accidents happen just with people backing in and out. Are we tight there? I mean, is this something where, if you're up near the field, you're parked in by the field, and people are all around you, and you're trying to get out, and it's a busy time? Are we asking for trouble here?
Well, I think it's settled here, but I've provided sort of a 6-foot shoulder area around the perimeter of the parking, so I've got a little space between the fence line for the field and that line you see delineating the edge of the parking. So I've got a little bit of a buffering there. But yeah, anytime you have parking near a field, you have to be cognizant of the fact that you're going to have a lot of pedestrians in that area. You'll also have people assembling at concentrated times, the arrival of the start and end times of various games. So you always have that concern, which is why I went with the conventional aisle widths of 24 feet. We have standard parking sizes on the stall itself. And I have some shoulder areas. Actually, as a matter of fact, one of the things that drove me to the option to put the pickleball court at the southern end of the tennis courts as opposed to within the basketball court area, it would have fit, but we would have lost a lot of that buffer clearance between the parking space and all. And then we would have ended up with 2 independent parking fields on either side of a concentrated pedestrian court activity. So I think that compromises safety as well, too. So we have the ability here to create that little bit of a buffering space. We may be able to even push that out a foot or 2, but I think we can provide a buffer space between the parking fields and the fence establishing the field area, so that we do have some room for pedestrians.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I wasn't concerned about that. It was more just the number of spaces and,
the number of
and
spaces.
the proximity to one another, and you get 2 people backing out and then having to turn and go out. And as I say, in ShopRite, it's always the parking lot there. It's always like bumper cars sometimes, and there's a lot of accidents there. And I'm just wondering whether this design kind of it lends itself to that kind of issue. And again, I'm only looking at it, on the diagram.
Right.
And I'm just
Well, I think you have conventional 90-degree parking in a conforming configuration that people expect. The best thing you can get with traffic safety is to provide expectancy. Where you arrive in a configuration that you would expect to see. So if you had parking spaces that were staggered or offset and angled, something that you wouldn't expect to see in a conventional parking area, that would lead to driver confusion. We have conventionally sized parking spaces here at 90-degree parking. One of the things that we can do with was actually fairly effective in a situation such as this is we can hairpin stripe the parking. Okay, so instead of a single line delineated parking spaces, you actually have 2. And what that tends to do is it tends to center cars a little bit better on the parking spaces. You get a little bit clearance between the cars as opposed to one person hugging the left line and the other person hugging the right. So again, that's it's about as conventional as we can go. If we went with wider parking spaces, I'm not sure that it gets you any better safety or circulation. We're constrained in the sense that these are dead-end aisles. We don't have the ability to provide a recirculation aisle on the back without compromising parking. So I think it's a balance between optimizing the parking spaces that we can here. I think we talked about between 40 and 50 in that general vicinity in terms of the demand we need for the parking spaces here.
Mark, I have a question.
Yes.
The aisle width, 24 feet, is that from the end of one space across to the beginning of the next space?
Correct. That's a clear width between the paint lines. So that.
All right,
that-
so if I'm in a car that's parked in a space that's closest to the field, and I want to get out, and all the other parking spaces are filled, I can back all the way up and then turn my nose out.
Correct.
There's enough room for that. All right.
Yeah. Plus, we give you a little bit of swing room in the back where you can actually turn a little bit and pull out.
And what was the improvement in the number of spaces over status quo?
Right now, we only have about 16 parking spaces in a conventional layout in that existing parking area. Plus, you have a few compact spaces which aren't really delineated along the front of the courts there, but in a lot of instances there, you've got sort of cars directly off the edge of the road
And
really
are
aren't a
there any
delineated space.
curbs along the aisles or just along the roadway?
No curbing. No curbing. We propose to do this with painting. What we actually would like to do is, in addition to provide a painted walkway between the edge of the parking spaces and New Vernon Road and the pavement of New Vernon Road, so we've got a delineated walking area to go from one edge of the parking lot to the other.
And when you're parked in the spaces closest to the field, what's next to you when you open the driver's door? A fence?
You got about 6.5 feet to the fence.
Oh, I see. So you swing the door open.
You've got
and
room.
You walk that way along the fence to.
Correct.
That's nice.
Correct. Yeah, it's hard to see on the sketch because of the aerial, but the solid line I have delineated in the edge of the parking there. You can see a little bit to the left there. You'll see the fence line. There's about a 6-foot area between the edge of the parking field and the parking. So there's enough room for a car door to open while somebody would be walking alongside.
That's big.
It'd be the
because-
equivalent of a sidewalk like you'd see.
Yeah, just for
immediately
everybody's
to the
benefit,
curb.
that's big because what happens for the people who are parking head-on down here, the kids are walking in the street, which is bad news.
Yeah, and right now, there's nothing to stop you from kind of nosing up to the fence, too, so the cars can kind of pull right up to the fence line right now, so you don't have that clear area where you can walk between the fence and the parking. So this would organize it. It'd be a paved area, it'd be delineated and striped.
And is it sloped down to the road all the way across, or how does the parking area meet the road?
It's pretty flat and level in the parking area itself too. The road kind of comes down to meet. You see there's a couple of inlets along the edge, just off the edge of the road that collect the drainage. The parking area kind of grades in an easterly direction along with the tennis courts to the gutter line of New Vernon Road, and the roadway itself drains towards the edge there. So it kind of collects at a low spot right along the edge of the roadway. So the idea would be, and we'd have to, for DEP purposes, maintain all those grades. We can't raise those because of the floodway. But we can provide delineated, channelized walking paths with paint that would allow for, organized circulation.
And how high is the fence protecting the cars from foul balls?
It's only about 3 feet, 3.5 feet, that one fence.
About down third baseline, is
Yeah.
that what you're talking about? Yeah, there's, you have, where the batter's cage is and stuff, that's higher there. But, generally speaking, no, it's about, 6 feet, going
So it's like what it is, well, maybe a little bit taller than what it is right now.
Pardon me?
A little bit taller than what it is right now, because it's probably like 4 feet, right?
I think it's a little taller than that,
Is it?
actually. We're not touching that fence.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay,
That
all right.
fence stays whatever it is right now.
It is what it is, yeah.
it's staying,
Got it.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
unless we decide to
No, it's just
take that,
curious.
yeah.
So, Mark, you've referenced this, but I'm still not clear. What's the end of the parking lot and New Vernon Road? The suggestion or the recommendation is a painted line or a curb?
A painted line.
Why not a curb?
Curbing would introduce grade changes in the floodway, which would then force us to have to lower something else. So in the floodway, it's the ice cube in the glass scenario, right? If I raise the curbing, believe it or not, the curbing, I can't even overlay the pavement because that 2-inch overlay on pavement would take volume out of the floodway. So you've got to remove to take away. If you add curbing that doesn't exist today, I'd have to lower the grade somewhere, which then could introduce drainage concerns and issues. I mean, it's something that we could certainly look into. Having the curb delineate the pedestrian area and a sidewalk does provide some perception of separation and safety. I'm not sure that it necessarily really does, but you know.
But anything's better than what it is now.
Right.
Because there's
I think you know we can look into. It can be done tastefully. It can sometimes get a little bit hokey, but we can look at. There's different colored pavement techniques we can use, or imprints on pavement. Everything's got a maintenance issue with it too, but you'll see a lot of time bike lanes, they've gone with colored bike lanes, colored crosswalks and things. So rather than just having 2 stripes delineate the crosswalk, you can color the entire walkway. It works in some instances, you know, it's something that we can look into. There's a cost and maintenance trade-off there too, because now you've got to maintain that, but it would provide, I think, and I think the key here would be an organized circulation pattern with basically indications that would identify to individuals, you know, walk here.
like brick, like a reddish brick. You see them in Chatham. I don't know what they use them for. One of the streets, Kings. It's very odd what they did, but
right,
Kings Road. But I get your point. So visually, it might be red and red, or
yeah, there's
rust,
there's different colors. Like, you know, I've seen green bike lanes in streets and things where you want to delineate more of a separation between those areas. Those are things that visually could create, you know, better cue and again expectancy to motorists on New Vernon that, hey, this is something.
Well, also I was going.
Along.
You just walked into my next question. Yeah, we know it's a county road, but it's a 40-mile-an-hour road that you have to stop at the end just beyond that field.
Yeah.
And I don't know, what is your experience? Would the county slow it down maybe when you got within 100 yards of what was Copper Springs and now, I forget, what's the soccer? Center Court.
Center Court.
Can you have a county road be reduced from 40 miles an hour to 25? There's no reason once you reach Center Court that you need to go faster than 25 miles an hour. Would the county be open to something like that?
They may. It's something we can. I'd be happy to discuss with the county engineer in terms of looking at that speed limit, and that's something that I think you know, if we working with the chief in terms of if we have any kind of records information on any kind of accidents or incidents in that area, I think that would support the cause. But the determination for speed limit on there lies with the county,
no doubt,
right? With their jurisdiction. Given the location of the 2, you know, recreational fields in this area here too, it may be enough cause for them to consider a potential lowering the speed limit. We can certainly ask the question and see if they're open to the idea.
I think that's a great idea. Basking Ridge does it, like where, you know, Long Hill. You take Long Hill Road into Basking Ridge there, where there's pedestrian traffic, it drops down to 25.
But that's probably a township road.
Is it not county?
Once it gets in, I don't know the answer.
The concept is similar.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, it's a residential road, right? Chief, isn't a residential road is 25 miles an hour unless it's posted differently? And that's what you're talking about, is residential.
There's really requirements in the MUTCD, which is the governing book that establishes the rules and requirements for establishing speed limits. There is some discretion given to the governing bodies to look at specific sections for establishing speed limits in there. It used to be only the state could set speed limits. That's been broken up now to county and municipal jurisdiction, but you do have to have some factual basis for how you would establish that.
But as you said,
limit.
2 recreational facilities back to back and a stop sign, 50 feet further.
And I think that context does make a potential difference here, at least to have a conversation about does it make sense. A lot of times that's not looked at in that kind of a context, and I think that would be helpful. The only really one that really exists in the statutes is school crossing areas where you can establish 25-mile-an-hour speed limits in the vicinities of schools. That wouldn't apply here, but the similar kind of a concept in terms of active recreational areas, it may make sense to at least look at that. And if the county were willing to do that, then that'd be something that they would.
Thank you.
So, oh yeah, sorry. So Mark, just one last question. I'm looking at the pickleball court, and is there any provision here where maybe if you don't have a curb, but maybe you have some kind of rail so that the cars have a definite stop? Because I mean, presumably people are going to be walking up and down this kind of alleyway there.
Yeah, you're talking about that one row of cars that kind of heads up onto the fence.
Yeah.
Probably what we could get away with is wheel stops there. I think we could get away with wheel stops in the parking space. Those are the concrete, individual. You have the parking spaces that would at least provide a stop so that people couldn't exceed over that paint line. That would probably get by DEP. I think that would be acceptable to them. That's a sort of a safety measure, so I think that would be acceptable. But anything more substantial than that, like a guide rail or anything like that, I think would probably be problematic from the floodplain standpoint. But wheel stops would make sense. They're not desirable in parking lots and things because of plowing and things like that. But in this particular instance here, they'd be up against the fence line. The theory here would be that in plowing season, the activity here is limited, so it wouldn't necessarily be as a concern to clear those parking spaces. So that may be something that's.
We could always add those later. We don't have to do that the first time around, see how it works out.
Yeah, that's something that we can certainly add.
All right. Any other questions for Mark related to this project, or Lisa for that matter?
Yeah, one last one. The recommended one is option 2, right?
Yes.
Lisa, that's what you're recommending, putting the pickleball court at the end and get rid of the basketball court altogether?
Yes.
Okay, and clearly this saves the playground as well.
Okay. And actually what it does, it's very subtle here, but one of the things it does is it allows me to have the parking kind of succeed, where you have the double loaded aisles, you have the parking butting up against each other, right? It allows me to take advantage of as much space as we have and provide that buffer between the pickleball court and the parking. And the other one where I'm sort of straddling the basketball courts, I don't have as much. They come in unit width, so I can only fit them in certain spaces, right? Those fence are fixed points, and I end up kind of really jamming them in too close to the fence. So it gives me more, I have more buffer clearance with the.
How many spaces did you say?
48.
48, that's what I thought, 48, and we
48.
currently have 16, 1/6?
Yes. 1/6 with a few undelineated compact cars. So, you could say maybe 20 spaces, and I think they.
Yeah, but back to your
or-
point,
organized there.
unexpected, you pull into a parking lot where those undelineated spaces are unexpected, that's what leads to bumpy cars, or whatever we called that before.
Yeah, correct.
All right. Any more questions from Mark?
I had a question.
Yes.
I know I told you we probably weren't going to talk about this, but since it seems like everybody likes the idea, we have some money left in a capital ordinance from a few years ago, right?
Pandemic, I think.
So my question for Mark is, once we use that, it's not enough to cover everything. Could we do the pickleball court, the fencing, and then pave the areas later? Like do this over 2 years? Because you could use the pickleball court, and people are using the parking as it is already. So could we split this into 2? Because this is more than we have in the capital ordinance.
You could, if you wanted to create the pickleball court separately,
It's an open space.
what we'd end up most likely forgoing in that instance would be probably repaving the area of the pickleball court. We'd have to maybe do a color code surface on it, but we could put the fence up and close that area off, maybe open up a section by the tennis court. So we'd end up with kind of a half or unused, tennis court. I don't think we'd be able to get any additional parking in without really paving.
Well, no, I mean, if we take, like, if we took off the 32, which is the asphalt base course and the excavated gravel areas.
Yep.
I mean, we could talk about it, but it might be possible to do. I know we could take like 30,000 out of open space, so we
Right.
might end up doing that. I'm not sure how much money is left in there after
Yeah.
we just kind of drained it.
The most efficient and probably cost-effective way to construct this, if you look at the basketball courts and tennis courts and think of those are right now currently paved asphalt surfaces, with the fringe being gravel. So you have the gravel across the front of the courts and the gravel on the existing parking lot. So you'd be taking those gravel areas down 6 inches and putting back base, and then stripping 2 inches off the existing, really taking that down 8 inches, putting back, you know, 6 inches of base, stripping 2 inches off the top of the existing asphalt, and then paving everything all at once. So that's really the most efficient way to do it. Take all the fencing down and put it that way. You could break it up. You might end up net costing a little bit more, but you'll get functionality out of the
And we
field.
have to bid this job?
I think you would. My preliminary estimate for this is somewhere around 85,
100?
90, yeah, around 100,000, 90-ish.
99.7.
Yeah, that was with my contingencies and all that. So yeah, I think I was right at 90 with before I started adding
How
contingencies.
long would it
but,
take to do this project?
Um,
Estimate.
I could probably knock this out in a couple of weeks. You know, maybe 3.
So Lisa would do that like prior to the season next March?
But, yeah. As long as
Started in
you can get
December?
contractors and supplies.
Right,
you
right.
know.
Paving materials are generally readily available. They're extremely expensive right now, but the bid prices are coming in exorbitant because of the fuel costs. This is a small quantity area here, so you're really looking at a different type of a bidder. You really get like a parking lot contractor that does this type of stuff that has smaller equipment and is used to confined spaces.
Is there any dependencies on this with the playground?
No, except that you're gonna pave an area that's currently gravel right up next to where the fencing goes around for the playground. But essentially, this does not touch the playground area at all. The 3-foot-high fencing that's there right now, there's maybe 18 inches of grass area in between the gravel and the start of the
All
fence.
right, so they're exclusive from each other, yeah.
So you could still use it and everything, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you know, off-season, or let's say March or late, I mean, probably early spring is the best really time to do this, because when you have limited activity at the playground, that area, the best way to really do this is, you know, sort of cordon off the whole area.
Yeah.
Let the contractor pave it so that there wouldn't be any pedestrian activity or recreation activity while you're trying to construct this, but.
And this is only loosely related. Where are we at on the lights there?
So they're ordered. I haven't gotten a shipment update or anything yet. Originally, we were told 10 to 12 weeks for supplies, and then it has to be scheduled. We have a pre-construction meeting, and the electrician has to come in. After, I guess, your second meeting in May, we had to wait a week, and then the purchase order was sent to Musco. So we're really like 3 weeks in.
But this project wouldn't disturb any of the utilities feeding the new lights or anything?
No, it would not. No, as a matter of fact, you're probably better off putting the lights in before you do all this paving so that they can stage equipment here without damaging the pavement.
All right, I think we all agree it's probably a good project. Lisa obviously supports it, Mark supports it. Do we have, anybody has any objection to moving forward with it? As to option 2? No, okay, so what do we have to do next? Just,
Well, I think what I was hearing is that you're not going to be able to do it till the spring. Is that what you were saying?
It's probably the optimal time to do it.
I mean, you know, we have part of the money, and if we're not doing it till the spring, we can come up with the rest of the money. I don't know if there's anything we can do in the meantime to convert that one tennis court to pickleball, or?
You have some substantial cracks on it right now, but I mean, it's currently open for tennis. If I bought just the net, that would need to be used. You know, there are temporary lines you can get and put in. I don't know how good they are with staying in place, so we'd have to line it for pickleball.
For now, could you have it for both?
Well, if we lined one side of it, yeah.
Mhm. So, I mean, we could do that so that you have people able to play now prior to just redoing the whole thing. So the whole renovation would take place in the spring, but But for now, if we just line it and get the cost of the pickleball net and post is pretty
Yeah,
insignificant, like $1,000. So we could do the lining and open it up for people to play now. It's just going to be, the rest of it's going to be the
They
same.
won't have fencing around it, but they have the existing tennis court net there to kind of define that, yeah.
So you think it would work?
You could do it, yeah, absolutely.
Would that help you, Lisa, generate some uptake on pickleball participation?
I'm sure it would, you know,
Help you generate leagues?
yeah, it would. I have a vision that once we actually have a pickleball court, we're going to have to do sign-up sheets. And that's what happens in most of the towns. Didn't you? And all of us rec directors keep getting online and like, what did you use? What was your system for taking reservations for the pickleball court?
Well, it actually, this is a good case study for us. I mean,
Yeah.
it will be a wonderful option in and of itself. But if it becomes what you're envisioning, we still have the property across the street, and we're going to get to that. And because we don't know what it is we want to put in there, whether it's a band shell or this or that. If pickleball is that popular, maybe several.
Become the pickleball centre of New Jersey.
That's right.
And maybe we could use the senior bus to transport the respective.
That'll get used for
pickleball.
that. All right, so it looks like we're moving on with this. Mark, under old business, while we have you here,
Yes.
let me just ask you a couple brief questions. You went to college for engineering?
Yes.
Where'd you go?
NJIT.
Okay, and-
Newark College of Engineering when I went.
Did you have any master's degrees or any other additional schooling in engineering?
No additional degrees, no.
Okay, have you taken continuing education classes over the years?
Yes. Yeah.
How long have you been an engineer for?
I've been a licensed engineer since 1995.
Okay, so you've had over 25 years of engineering experience.
Yes.
And have you ever testified or qualified as an expert in the field of engineering?
I have.
In court or just in zoning and planning board areas? Or
Planning
both?
Board and Zoning Board, Superior Court of New Jersey, and the Superior Court of New Jersey and the State House.
And have you, so you've testified in public on engineering issues?
Numerous times, yes.
Okay. Also, have you designed road projects?
Many, yes.
Okay. Is it fair to say you've designed over 40 or 50 of these road projects?
Easily,
And they
yeah.
include drainage
Yes.
and piping?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Last week it came up, there were a lot of issues or questions, and we couldn't answer them because we're not
Right.
experts in this field, and obviously you are, about the project. You're familiar with the project on Main Street?
Yeah.
Okay, and so you know some issues came up with the pipes and some of the
Right.
pipes being obviously aging and need to be replaced.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know if anybody else has any, people are here, they have questions. You're here available to answer these questions.
Absolutely, and I think, I did have an opportunity to listen to the discussion that took place at the last meeting, and I know some of those concerns that come up, and I think it's one thing. I'll applaud the committee's efforts to look at an ongoing effort to conduct inventories of conditions of various things. I mean, there's always a balance that you have to take between, do you spend all your money inventory and everything, which you got to update every couple of years to have an exact knowledge of every little crack and pipe in the world? It's just like your house, do you look at your water heater every year? Versus what do you spend that money into construction? An engineer's dream would say, okay, we're going to reconstruct everything from the ground up, whenever we do things. We have to stretch the dollars that we can. As you know, the dollars are always tight when it comes to getting as much as you can out of the projects that you have available here. And although the townships put a substantial amount of funding towards this project, mostly in response to some of the bidding circumstances that we have had. It's important to note here that in this particular project, this was derived out of grant opportunities that came through the DOT. Those grant opportunities that came out of the DOT were basically scoped or conceived about 2.5 years ago. We looked at resurfacing, and again, these are resurfacing grant funds where a lot of it changes year to year, but a lot of the grant programs that the DOT offers, they like to put their money towards lane miles of pavement. They want to see pavement. They don't typically look as favorably on grant applications that include a lot of underground infrastructure piping work. That's usually what they call NP, or non-participating. So they'll look at it as resurfacing projects. So while we always look at drainage, we look at the conditions of the conditions in any road project that we look at. These projects were essentially structured as resurfacing projects because that was the grant application that was developed 2.5, 3 years ago. In light of ongoing conditions that we've got monitored, as part of the New Jersey American water work, when that was being done, and in talking with Al Gallo, looking at some of the concerns we've had with some of the pipe, and we thought it best to put some contingencies in the project here to allow for some established unit costs, so that should be fine during construction. We intend to observe the pipe conditions. We've got a couple measures in the contract here. Every single one of those line items you see in the contract has contingencies in it. There's if and where directives. We have a little bit of areas where we can take a little from one line item and add to another without compromising the project. So that's always been designed and built into the project. We've got a test pit mechanism in the contract here. So I have a unit cost established for contractors to conduct excavations. So while we're out looking at this and the milling is taking place and we're proof rolling the road, we see areas where we think the pipes are compromised, we can say, give me a hole here, give me a hole there, and we can look and see if those pipes are compromised, and we can take measures to replace those pipes.
And you're familiar with waste, with cameraing, and we talked about last week to inspect this ahead of time.
It's a good tool that's out there. It's really a technology that was designed for sanitary sewer systems that's been used in storm sewers a lot more now too. It's a good tool that's out there. It's not cheap. We did get some quotes. We get some day rates in terms of what it would cost for a crew to televise and jet vac the pipes. In sanitary sewer work, you really can't get in there without shutting the sanitary sewer pipes off, right? So it's more of a non-destructive way to look at the piping. In the case of relatively shallow drainage pipes here, and better access into the inlets, it's a little bit easier to kind of do some of that with visual observations. The longer runs may make sense. We kind of look at that as a balance. You have to balance the cost effectiveness of looking at all the televised inspections for piping versus putting provisions in for open cutting. I think some of the repair quote we got, numbers that we've received here, in my view, for this project, with the number of pipes that we have here, it would most likely be more cost effective to open cut those pipes and replace them should we need to, as opposed to try to do something telescopically, if you will, right through the piping here. And again, it's an available tool, and it's great to look at if you're looking at doing sort of a broad-based inventory for, let's say, mapping of the stormwater conditions throughout to give you some better input on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes in a smaller scale, it makes more sense to just provide contingencies in a contract and look to do those with open cut where needed and necessary. So it's a case-by-case basis that you really have to look at.
Any questions? No. Mark and Brian, you have questions?
Because I think thanks, Matt, for introducing the qualifications, Mark's qualifications to us all, but they're no surprise to me because I didn't think the town would hire an engineer of any less stature than yourself, Mark.
I think those are pretty much minimum thresholds in having that license, yeah.
So, but the thing was that I guess what wasn't brought out in the discussion last week, and I guess I think I've taken away from what you've just said, is that the contingencies that you worked into the contract basically would have taken care of any of the issues that came up as far as the piping was concerned, because my understanding from the discussion last week was that there were some contingencies inbuilt, but they certainly wouldn't rise to the level of if we did find issues in there and major issues, that they wouldn't there wouldn't be enough money in the contract in order to take care of them. So,
Well,
but what you said tonight is that you have all this stuff, you can open them up, you can look.
Well, we have contingencies in the contract. We don't have budget in the contract, if we were to do a wholesale replacement of all the piping throughout the road. And I don't believe that would be the case where all the piping would be in a condition where it's completely at the end of its life. And that's really a different type of a project, a different type of a scope of a project. I agree that it makes sense here if we have sections of pipe that are compromised, sections of pipe that are either at or near failure, it makes sense to do that before we resurface and pave the road. That just makes the most sense so we don't have trench repairs in the future. But I think we have to make a judgment call on some of these areas and address this, the hotspot areas in the road. We have small quantities in there based on what we've provided, again, to establish the unit costs. And a lot of that was really driven by the fact that we had limitations on the grants that we had here. If we started to introduce a large scale of pipe replacement in this project that's being funded by the DOT, intended for resurfacing, we'd get a red flag from the DOT right out of the gate. So we didn't want to embellish the project in such a way where it would jeopardize the grant money that we had available for the DOT. So we put some quantities in as contingency items. I do have available, contingencies and other pay items where we can. You're allowed to. One of the standard conditions of our contract, sort of in the front end of the boring stuff of the contract, is provisions where the owner or the owner's rep has the ability to increase or decrease contract quantities. So we can reduce curbing in a certain area, and we can provide that would provide room in the contract ceiling to increase another item without a net, without a gross increase in the contract ceiling. So I think we have more contingency in the contract than just the linear feet of pipe we put in as a contingency. That number could increase without necessarily jeopardizing the contract ceiling. But again, we have to, our plan all along was to really assess these when we get out there during construction as part of our routine inspection with the construction project to address these specific areas. What you try to avoid in these types of contracts is you try to avoid not having a line item for a specific task or item that you want to do. So if I had no piping or no drainage items in the job, the contractor then would, whoever had the contract at that point in time, would then have to give me a price. And generally what we have found that when you have to establish a new unit price for something that's not in the contract, you generally tend to get higher pricing when you're negotiating with the contractor later, because he kind of has you there, the job's open, and the pricing gets a lot higher. So the technique we use is to put these units in with some approximate quantities where we believe they're contingency items, and establish a unit cost so we have a basis for determining what that estimate's going to be. If we find that we have wholesale failure, I think we would have seen evidence of that already. We would have seen many more, holes opening up or depressions in the road. So when we evaluated this road, we looked for areas where there's compromise.
Yeah, I mean, not to cut you off, Mark, but I think it's a kind of a moot point, because the township committee, my colleagues here in the township committee, agreed that if things were found, we're talking about camera in the pipes, and if things were found, we would do the job right.
Yeah.
The whole point of what I was saying last week of the discussion that you say that you listened to, and hopefully it came across, we were spending over $1 million on a road, right? And there was the potential, if we didn't do this kind of work, that in regard to the fixing the piping, we were going to have to dig up that beautiful road in a year, 6 months, whatever it might be, and redo it. And so it was wasting $1 million, whether it was state money, county money, our money, whatever it is. And there was a substantial amount of our money in there, and that's what that was my point last week. The committee said that committed to it, that we would take care of whatever it was done, and we would. Last week we were going to camera the pipes and see what needed to be replaced, and committed to replacing them. So
yeah, right, and I, the same could be said for the gas main and the water main and the sanitary sewer. So all of the infrastructure under the road, or the sidewalks between the handicap ramps. So it's a balance.
I get it.
It's a balance.
But as I say, it's more than this is. this is a system that's important to this town just because of where we are situated. It is within our control, and so that was the whole point of my that was the whole point of what my comments at the last meeting, and hopefully you realised where they were coming from, because I think whenever we embark on any project, no matter who's funding it, we look at those types of issues that we have in our control, and that was all I was saying last week.
Any other questions for Mark?
If I could just ask Mark to clarify, because we're talking about cameraing again, but in my conversation with Mark, and I believe what he said just now, is that he has a different way of doing it. So if you want to talk about that again. So my question to you is, are we going to go with what Mark said, or are we going to spend, approximately $5,000 a day for 4 days to camera all the pipes? So Mark, if you could talk about that for what your plan is.
Right. So we can camera all the pipes along Main Street there for about $20,000 or $25,000, and we'll have cameras of all of the pipes along that area, which could potentially identify or narrow down the areas where we have to do spot repairs. The plan we have in place sort of now is to do visual inspections of those piping during construction. So while the milling is taking place, while the sidewalk is taking place, we're going to do visual inspections through the inlets and through the manholes to see where that piping is potentially compromised, and then build that into the existing contract that we have. Should we find that during our visual inspections we have a couple areas where the pipes are a little bit longer, I think we can work with Public Works on some of the longer runs. We may be able to do that at a cost savings, but we'll know pretty soon. We'll know, early on in the process, as we're doing that inspection work and doing some proof rolling with the contractor, we'll know if we think we have a substantial increase in quantity. If we find that 80% of the piping is sound, and only 20% needs to be, across the entire road, needs to be looked at and addressed, we can kind of narrow that down as part of that. But the goal is always to kind of do that as part of visual inspections, and then use our test pits with the contractor to take a few test holes in areas where we think we have compromised pipes. But in my experience, while the type of pipes that exist out there are prone to rotting depending on soil conditions, it's not necessarily all uniform. It doesn't all, it doesn't all rot the same day, the same week. It doesn't all go at the same time. So it depends on many factors. So the idea is to kind of use test pits with the contractor to identify areas that are compromised in lieu of doing all the camera work.
Would the visual inspection be as accurate as using a camera or close to it?
In the areas that are visually accessible, yes. I mean, in the areas where we have longer runs, we have to rely on Public Works to maybe give us some camera work, or we can do some test pits, in the areas where we can't get visual inspection anymore. But
so Mark, I mean, I think I'm in agreement here with where Vic's going. We camera, we pretty much know everything. That's we know all the issues, all.
It would give us a comprehensive view of all the piping.
We go down, we look in, we shine a light. It looks good. We don't really know if it looks good, right? And so if we're, as I say, from my perspective, we've got, is it 500K of actual Long Hill taxpayer money in this, Nancy?
About six.
About six. So we've got $600,000 worth of actual our money, right? That's in this, and you're saying that we shouldn't find out just how robust the piping system is by cameraing. Instead, we do something which is less robust, and who knows what happens whenever the contractor leaves and the road's paved and everything's okay. Is that?
I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. I'm saying that in the context of the way this project was scoped 3 years ago, okay, we didn't have 25% of the operating budget, available to us to put into inspection or diagnosis of the piping. So if that's a mechanism that the Township Committee wants to employ now, I'm not saying that's a bad idea. That would give us a comprehensive idea of what the piping looked like. I'm saying that we've provided some measures in the contract now to try and address the situation to the best we can within the limits of the contract.
Would that be more, in other words, if we did the cameras, we would be much less likely to have to open up the road in the future to fix something that was broken. Is that a fair statement or no? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I just want to make sure.
Well, if we camera
we
all
don't
the
want
lines
that.
now, we know where all the potential problems are, failure are today.
Right.
I can't tell you what's going to happen in a year. If another section that we don't address deteriorates, new pipe fails too, right?
Right,
so,
right.
But it's less likely to fail, right? It's just, I mean, it just is.
Potentially, but you'd be surprised what a leak in a water main can do.
No,
the sinkhole on 78 that's just been messing up my commute. It's about 20 by 20 right now. But
is that exit 21? Is that what caused that?
Yeah. There's a sinkhole opened up the entire right lane. Width-wise on the shoulder, they lost the whole section.
It's affected mine as well.
But you'd be surprised how a water main leak 40 feet away can undermine soil and cause a sinkhole. So there's lots of causes for failure.
The challenge I have, and I have no problem, whatever's the right way to do it, we want to do it the right way, but like when Long Hill Road was paved by the county,
right?
Did they camera everything underneath the road?
No, typically a lot of the money that's used, it's sort of compartmentalized. It's done into, the money's put into lane miles on pavement, and they look at it as well. If we have a spot repair, we'll have to do a spot repair. So it's always desirable to try to avoid having a plan for excavating newly paved roads once you have it done. The reality is it's almost impossible to prevent. You'll have a water service break or something will happen. So things will happen over the course of time that repairs will get made to roads. What you try to do is within the limits and the scope of the project you have, you try to do the best you can with what you've got. But,
ultimately, what would be your best advice here, visual or camera?
I think
honest. You're
I think if the money is available to camera the lines, that's probably what money well spent to look at and get an assessment of the pipe here. Again, as an engineer, we love when towns look to spend money on inventorying things. We love a comprehensive inventory of all the pavement and all the piping and everything. It makes determining priorities so much easier. A lot of times we have to use visual inspections and spot checks because we don't have the comprehensive plan. So if you're willing to put additional funds towards the camera, that will give us a better view of the condition of all the pipes in that area, and it'll give us a better idea of how we want to, of areas that we need to address. It's going to show you visual cues of, it'll show you sections where pipe is rotted out. It'll show you where there's intrusions on the pipe. It's not going to do a life cycle analysis of your pipe. Okay, it's going to show you areas where you see, well, it looks tarnished, it looks okay. So it's only going to give you a visual cue to see where you have failure spots today. It's not really going to give you, which is a lot of, again, for the money, a lot of times it's not employed in projects of this type because of, number one, of the limitations on the scoping money and the limitations of the budget itself. But I don't know if there's cracks behind that wallpaper, right? It looks okay now, right? But if it fails tomorrow, we peel it back and we look at it forensically, we'll see that there was some failure cracks. So it's not going to give you this, oh, I got 6 years of life left in this pipe. It's not going to tell you that.
But that's the thing, we're not looking for that, right? All I'm looking for is something that the visual inspection isn't as good as the camera, right? You can
but in some degrees. But if I have a failure area now, I've got a sinkhole or I've got pavement fatigue that's showing me on shallow pipes. I already see distress in the pavement, and I already see other visual cues that give me an idea that I've lost a pipe section. If the pipe is intact today and it fails in 6 months, I don't even think a camera is going to tell you that.
So now your camera's not as good then, visual inspections?
Well, it's going to get you access and going to get you closer visual inspection of the longer runs.
Right.
So in that instance, it's better.
Instance, it's good, right?
Yeah, that's better.
And I think what we did was we agreed last week that we would spend the money to do whatever was best for this project, so that we weren't going to dig up the road. Now, if we camera, does it mean that we're never going to have to dig up the road? No.
Right.
Of course not.
Yeah, as long
we're
as
stacking the deck, right? We're stacking the deck to say we did everything we possibly could to not dig up the road.
Yeah,
that's all I want.
I just don't think it's as black and white as A or B. It's somewhere in the middle there in terms of you'll get some better information from the cameras in certain areas that are inaccessible to visual inspection, which would enhance the visual inspections. So maybe the short runs, we don't have to employ the camera. We have a day rate from the camera. But on the short runs, we can work with the camera crew and say, okay, listen, don't TV this one. you know, only TV that runs it we can't get to, so maybe we can compromise, you know, maybe we can find a way to save a little bit of money with the day rate that way, and it's,
Okay, I mean, we should save money, but let's not be pound wise and penny foolish.
agreed.
Any other questions from Mark?
Thank you.
Thanks,
You're
Mark.
welcome.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Any other old business?
New business, actually.
Go ahead.
I've got something under new
Yeah, go ahead.
business. As some of you know, I tend to do a lot of walking around town, and I am particularly concerned. One particular crosswalk that I use, it's there's been a couple of instances where I've been potentially clipped by a car whenever I'm on the crosswalk, and so this past week I saw Chief Naga came up with a very good idea which would increase visibility, and I think he actually had some studies as well that he quoted to show that the simple thing is having an orange flag. It makes you more visible as a pedestrian, and certainly makes you more visible as a driver. You know, there's a crosswalk, and if there's somebody with an orange flag that wants to walk across. And so I thought that was it was a great idea. It's been implemented around here, in this area. I think it's in Summit, it's in New Providence, and the one issue that seemed to be raised was the cost of implementing it, which was not that much. Whenever you consider the safety issues that it potentially solves, and so you know, we've been talking tonight about we've found money for a number of things, and that would certainly be one that I would like to see us be able to start on that sooner rather than later, for just not my protection, but for the protection of all the other people who walk in town and maybe want to walk but are put off by the fact that we don't have sidewalks, and people tend not to, certainly in my experience, pay as much attention as they should to crosswalks.
What intersection was that?
It's the one near Millington School.
Where, on Northfield by your house?
On Northfield, yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So going basically across Northfield along Long Hill?
Yep,
Okay.
yep, to Meadowview, and that's it's a particularly bad one, even although there's a school there. But this is this is certainly something that anything that increases pedestrian safety is something, especially something that's as cheap to implement as this. I think we should jump on it.
Test
You
it
propose maybe like a pilot program at the worst intersections, or?
Well, I mean, what if we have, I don't know what a worst intersection is, right? Because what if we have one going somewhere and then somebody gets clipped, another intersection where we haven't, where we haven't implemented it? I mean, I think it's, the studies are out there. They were provided to us. It makes sense that if you're visible, more visible, you actually are safer whenever you're crossing a road. We've seen other towns do it, as I say, and so why not just put it in, implement it town-wide? Because what test are we going to do? You know, like.
Well, do we have sort of an idea of the most dangerous intersections where this would be an issue?
No, I mean, I think every intersection has the potential to be dangerous, right?
Every intersection in town?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're a pedestrian and you're walking out onto a road, there's always an issue, right? And being more visible is better. Studies have shown it. And so why not, instead of choosing intersections, why not just do it town-wide? I think it's like $6,000. It's like a $6,000 investment in pedestrian safety, which I think is worth it.
Yeah, I don't think the money is an issue at all. You know, personally, I'd have questions as to you know, whether people would use it, whether the flags would disappear, et cetera.
But I mean, if you look at the other towns, right? I mean, the flags don't disappear. They're still there, and I've seen people use them.
Yeah, no, I read it. I did a little bit of research. It works for some towns. Other towns, you know, they do have issues with vandalism. I'm gonna say vandalism isn't necessarily a problem in this town, but you know, if we did 5 or 6 of the most important places where we think this has to go, and see how it works with the public.
Yeah, like when I do my walking, like from my house down to the, to here, like the intersection on Long Hill Road is definitely dangerous. But then there's some of them that are, like Railroad Avenue and, like that I really don't think are necessarily dangerous. I don't want, God forbid something ever would happen. I don't want to sound ignorant. But I agree with the concept, but I think if it were possible to try it in some of the more dangerous spots, rather than in a blanket area.
And I agree with like Northfield and Long Hill,
Yes.
right by your house.
It's a bad spot.
It's really bad,
But
especially with the children, right?
okay, yeah,
Crossing.
oh yeah,
And
that
obviously,
really magnifies
you
the
weren't wearing
issue.
that jacket when you almost got hit.
That wouldn't be such an issue.
And I noticed you have the yellow flag in here too.
Can I recommend that the flags be this color?
He's got one in his pocket too, it's yellow.
No, you can never be too prepared. No, I mean the thing is, right? The other, just as this took me by surprise, right? That it would be some but not others. So if we have some intersections where we have the flags and we have others where there aren't, and you're a driver, then you're not seeing them as it is. A lot of these intersections you're not seeing as it is, and so if you see some intersections that have a flag, you're like, oh, okay, there's a crosswalk here, great, pay attention. And when you don't see those flags, it's kind of confusing, because then do you have a crosswalk,
So
or
the
do you, or do
towns
you
that you
not?
referenced, though, do they blanket every intersection?
I believe so. I mean, certainly the intersections I've seen, that's what I see.
I've seen them in New Providence on Springfield Avenue, but I don't think every intersection on Springfield Avenue has it. I know the side streets don't, because I've been on many of the side streets in New Providence recently.
I think it's a really good idea for many areas, places where you have children in playgrounds, vulnerable residents, right, known trouble spots.
But isn't that
The
everywhere?
question I have is like, how do you control the scope of it, right?
Well, I mean, the scope of it is easy, right? Because if you have a crosswalk, you just put the flags up. That's it, right? So you've controlled the scope.
So you're
but-
saying where you have a lined crosswalk?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
That makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
honestly, I misunderstood
No,
you.
I did too. I misunderstood you also.
So where there's a
took the mystery out of it.
Okay, good.
It's
Yeah.
already
Yeah, you have a
been
crosswalk
defined
down.
as someplace that people cross.
Yep,
Absolutely.
that's good, that's good.
I understand now.
Yeah, okay.
I agree with
Sorry
that.
for the
How many
confusion.
of those do we have,
All right.
would you say, in town? How many of those defined crosswalks do we have?
Chief, do you know?
So just to clear a couple things up, as Committeeman Ray said, it's at designated crosswalks. That's the only place they could really go at a controlled, or somewhat of a controlled intersection. So any designated crosswalks, we selected ones across what we call main arteries, right? So Central, Main, Long Hill, Northfield, where there is a designated crosswalk is where you can implement it. I couldn't just put it somewhere in the middle of Long Hill Road where I think someone would want to cross. I sent you all a list of the streets that it would be applicable to. I think you're all copied on it.
Yeah, and I think the way Brendan explained it, where it's lined, that really helped a lot.
Correct, yep.
I believe there were 300 on that list, at $200 apiece, to doing the math, because I believe the math was about 6,600, so at $200 apiece, I believe there were about 300, does that sound, or 30 is my math? No, it's good, no, is it 30?
30.
Yeah.
30, my math is off, sorry.
Not 300.
And then what's that,
300.
30 being what, 15
300 is a lot.
intersections or 30 intersections?
30 intersections.
Okay.
So, as the mayor noted, this wasn't budgeted for. It's not a lot of money. It just the chief has his budget. He can figure out where to take the money from. That's not my decision. It's his budget. I do note that we got a letter today. I don't know if you got it yet. That we received $8,500 in forfeiture funds. So maybe we could use that money. I'm not sure. It says for any use that the prosecutor agrees to. I don't know if you have other plans for that money, but I just thought it might be an option.
Let me just tell you, you cannot touch that money without authorization from the police department. The prosecutor's office is specific to training and/or equipment to further investigations or further officer abilities to conduct investigations.
Okay, well, obviously you know that better than I was. I was just going by the letter that said if the prosecutor approves a law enforcement use, then you can use that money. But
Yeah.
if you can't use it, then,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other places it could be taken from in the police department budget.
Well, I mean, you know, okay, we found money today. You know, there was like an extra umbrella. Okay, I guess it's not $6,600, but I've heard a lot over discussions that we've had where we can say, oh well, we'll find money for that. And this, you know, as I say, I know we had the police department budget was scrutinised and cut down significantly this budget season, and so I would hate that we would have an area where Chief Naga couldn't actually find the money in his budget for this year, but we, as a town, this is a town-wide safety initiative, that we wouldn't be able to implement it. And that's really why I brought it up tonight. It was to get the input from the rest of the committee and to say that, can we find the money for it, just as we're not that tight if the chief can't find it in his budget, because as I said, I know that we scrutinised it pretty carefully this budget season and cut it down significantly from where it was. And so that's my ask, is that if we look around and see where we have the $6,600, whatever it might be, and able to implement it.
So why don't we have Randy kind of scour things, and then we can figure out an answer.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Any other old business? Brendan has new business technically. Announcements. Scott, you recommend, let's say dates. First concerts this weekend, Saturday night?
That's right.
Okay. So where is it? Cantor? 7 o'clock, I think.
No, it's at,
Or the lake.
it's at the lake.
Beach?
Parrot Beach.
Oh, it's Parrot Beach.
Yeah.
Lake? Yeah, lake concert. I have the list here. So you have the list there?
Yeah. Yeah, so Parrot Beach at Sterling Lake, 6:30 to 8:30. It's free. And then all the rest are at Cantor Park.
There's one next Thursday, too.
Yep, Thursday the 30th, and then the next one after that's Thursday the 14th
Yeah,
of
it's
July.
on Thursdays.
Yep.
All right, for the most part. Okay, so, yes, Parrot Beach, Sterling Lake, Saturday night, 6:30.
Yep.
Any other announcements? Seeing none? All right, open the meeting to the public. Anybody who wishes to express any concerns, come on up. Mr. Groskopf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
Tom Groskopf, Gillette. A few notes, if you don't mind. Any thoughts on that quarterly newspaper, what was it, the Long Hill Ledger or something like that that I spoke of last time? Are we going to be doing that again? Because we were talking about the busing issue before and how we're only getting a handful of requests.
Might be something, again, we have to budget for next year, but.
Oh,
We
okay.
have to talk-
I don't know how
Bruce had
expensive that
contact,
is.
didn't
We have the contact.
he? Oh, okay.
No, so I was just wondering, I don't know how much the mailing is of a mayor's message and some highlights to people who are not taking advantage of all the great things that this town offers. I see that we're still on Zoom, and as a member of a board, the zoning board, otherwise I'm a private citizen, we were told that we're no longer allowed to Zoom. I don't know if the rules have changed for township committee versus a zoning board. I don't know.
It's not our call. They're an autonomous entity, and they set their own rules for that kind of thing.
What do you mean no longer? Because of a state statute or because of the township committee?
Candidly, I don't know. I just know that we were told
It
we're not
was-
allowed to do it anymore, and I don't know if the state has now said, you got to do it all in person. I don't know.
No, it was, I believe, a decision of the board
Yeah.
that made that decision. It wasn't the
Okay.
township committee
Right.
or the state
'Cause
statutes.
I do know of a couple town councils that are still entirely on Zoom.
And
So-
some, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, so it's still allowed, is my point.
And some are not doing hybrid. They're just, you have to appear live. It's totally a local decision, but within the town, it's up to the individual boards as to how to conduct it.
Actually, I didn't know. Can I ask a question, Tom?
Sure.
Your meetings are still 100% Zoom?
No, just the opposite.
Live.
We're all live, nothing on
Right.
Zoom.
But you just don't provide the Zoom as an option?
Correct. There's,
But
you
you
can't even look in
I
from
think
Zoom.
what Megan said, based on state statute and what Jack's saying, based on what authority we have. We have no control over you.
Oh, I'm not worrying about me. I was just making sure that everybody's in compliance. And
Fair
we don't
enough.
get- we
All
don't
right.
get a
I
fine.
got you. I hear you.
Who wants a $5,000 fine or whatever it is? Not me. I remember Ms. Praza was here probably 6 months ago, and she had made a comment, and I thought it was a very good one, that comments should be allowed after first reading, because by the time something gets to a second reading, it's pretty much baked. You've all discussed it, you've come to your conclusions, which is fine, but by the time people get to chime in, it's, well, thank you for your input, we're just going to vote on this now.
We just changed something tonight based on Mr. Reynolds' comment.
Yes. But it doesn't always happen, so I'm just saying, perhaps, you do get, Mr. Aronowitz brought it, some good points. So you do get some good feedback, maybe on the first reading, and then you won't have to have a third reading, essentially. I was looking at that wall, and looks like, well, you have electric, and I don't know if there's room there for cable, or we could bring the cable line up. Maybe put a big screen there.
It
And,
works.
and
You guys use it for the zoning board too, so it's gonna be.
no, not the small one. I'm saying
No, yeah,
for the audience,
Yes,
for the audience.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's in the works.
Oh, it is. Thank you very much. I know there was a discussion, but I didn't.
Absolutely. That's
Just-
moving forward.
Okay. I did also have another thought. Smoking marijuana is now legal in New Jersey. I know I saw all you guys hanging out up front. No, maybe not. Maybe not. We don't have an ordinance, though. I know we do have an ordinance that you cannot sell marijuana-related products in our town. I was thinking that it would be good that if we had an ordinance to follow through and say that you can't smoke marijuana where you can't smoke cigarettes, or you can't drink alcohol. Right now, you could walk down the street, smoke a nice joint, have a good time. Well, I don't like that with kids around. I don't like that with old people around. I don't like that with anybody around.
So Jack,
It might be preempted. of
Yeah,
driving.
I think it's preempted. I think we could prohibit in public buildings where we prohibit smoking, but I don't think we can prohibit it.
Let's say somebody's walking on the sidewalk
What about
on Valley
Canton
Road.
Field?
That's a public park, huh?
Yeah, it's the public parks where we prohibit smoking. I think we could prohibit it on the same grounds, but I don't think we could prohibit it
And what about where we...
walking down
what-
Main Street. Just
What
could
about where you
smoke a
can't drink?
cigarette there.
What about where you can't drink alcohol? Like you can't drink alcohol walking down the street.
Yeah,
It's
but you
my
can smoke
understanding
whenever you
it
go
could
down the
be-
street.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah, Brendan's right.
But smoking doesn't get you high.
Yeah, but
Or-
it's illegal.
yeah.
It's
but
legal. There's nothing you
That's
can
right.
Did you say you can't smoke walking down the street?
No,
You can.
You can.
You can
smoke.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I think we could prohibit it in public parks, in public buildings, but not, in public areas where you could smoke cigarettes.
but to Tom's point, you can't walk down Main, drinking a Heineken.
We don't write the laws, we just follow them. Yeah.
Okay, so the law,
It's been preempted.
from the state, you can't drink a bottle of Heineken walking down Main,
But
but
can't we have more restrictive than the state? That's what I was taught and...
No.
No, because
No.
I'm preemptive. They.
But in certain areas we can, but generally in the area of criminal law, anything that's in Title IIC, which is a criminal law statute, we can't have local ordinances that prohibit the same thing. And the state's very strict about that. It gets thrown out if you try to have a local loitering ordinance. They'll throw it out on the ground that it's been preempted.
Okay, I was just trying to avoid the smoke clouds that you often find in New York City. It's
Right.
horrible.
Are there any areas that we have officially delineated that you cannot smoke?
I think parks,
Parks, by,
primarily parks, and town hall, things like that.
Like, what about areas where they're like families and stuff like that? Like,
like if you want to go smoke a doobie in Valley Mall, you can.
Right.
you can?
Yeah.
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 Or by ShopRite, where
Yeah,
families
sure.
shop and stuff.
Of course.
That's
And there's
right.
nothing that we could do as a
State
community.
legalized it. That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Like here, obviously, you can't do it at Canton Park, 'cause you can't smoke in Canton Park anyway.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Sure. One last thing. I was reading it tonight, the resolution regarding the the conduct of the police organization. I don't see the name of whoever the consultant is. Are we using McKinsey?
No, it's called
Because
MR.
McKinsey would cost you a lot more than 30 grand.
No.
It was just inserted tonight. It's Municipal Resources, Inc., out of Plymouth and Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
My experiences with the likes of McKinsey is they'll come in and say, "Here, you've got a great job here, but you could do it with half the people." And just to enlighten those who haven't dealt with them before, they often think that you could do a lot more with less, and they're generally always wrong. Sorry, McKinsey, don't take that out on me. And if we're doing that with the police, are we not doing it with the administration?
No.
So we're just going to look at one organization, not the other.
Correct.
And I know a couple of months back, we hired somebody to come in and do personnel reviews, which you should often do, well, always do every year, but we haven't done it in a while.
No, we haven't hired anybody to personnel reviews. Like yearly reviews and stuff?
I thought that we had,
We discussed hiring a human resources officer, either as a consultant or as a joint
I remember
venture
the
with
consultant
surrounding
conversation,
towns.
that's what I'm asking.
I still think that's a good idea, but we haven't moved forward with it.
Okay. And I guess to follow up on Mr. Liberato's question from a while ago, have we had a department head meeting yet? I know we hadn't had, it's almost July.
No, I meet with my department heads on almost a daily basis,
Okay. So then, yeah, you have.
individually.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm glad you think so.
I'm entitled to my opinion, thank you. Okay, thank you all very much for your time, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Oh, by the way, you guys didn't get the color of the day?
Brendan did.
Yeah, see? I got the memo.
It's on my flag.
Hey, gentlemen. Mark Giovanni, Heritage Road. Two things I wanted to bring up. First one, this concept of consultant for operations. Based upon what I hear, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I think it's a really premature idea. And I think hearing what your concepts were and what you believe to be the issues, I'm not certain you even know what you're trying to solve for, to be honest with you. And I wouldn't want to bring someone in if there wasn't a specific problem that I'm trying to solve for. So before we take that step to consulting, I think kind of what Brennan was saying is perhaps we should baseline whatever it is that we are right now. And probably the most effective way to do that, probably talking to the guys that are here now, right? So one, this consulting firm that's coming in, we've got no credibility or trust other than their reputation, so it's not true that they'll always do the best thing for us. So one, we can compare it versus what we already know. Are these guys bringing any value to the scenario? So I think first and foremost, before we go to consultant, we should definitely at least baseline our own environment, understand what chief and what the other officers identify as gaps or challenges in the environment. And then from there, go to the consulting firm and say, listen, these are the challenges that we've identified. This is what we want to do, because first and foremost, it could be something as simple as, hey, we want to make certain as an organization that we're able to, or as a police service, we're able to respond to certain calls or whatever it may be in these time frames. So have very specific and prescriptive outcomes that you want to achieve. I think if you go to a consultant without that kind of mindset, you're probably going to get a little bit of a homework and science project. You don't know what you're going to get out of it. And $30,000 is a lot of money. And I guarantee you none of you would take $30,000 out of your pocket and throw a dart at a board and say, I'm going to invest in this stock. I don't know what my return's going to be. I don't know what that's going to be. It's the same way with this taxpayers' money. I think we need to have a little bit more of a prescriptive approach to that spend. And secondly, I'm not certain I don't even know if it's worth it, but I know we're not accredited still. Hey, how about we take that 12,000 of that and put it towards getting these guys accredited, which again will help with the operations component, then bring someone in when it's the right time. So that's just my thought, right, on this. Not saying that you're wrong, not saying that I just think that we need to be a little more prudent and ask more questions. You guys just spent probably 35 minutes talking about water pipes in parking lots. I would like to see more of that curiosity stem from conversations around police and around some of these other things. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is the dispatch contract. So I know that we're going to do it again. Don't disagree with that choice, right? In terms of the idea that, hey, if we have to set up something different, it's going to take a while. So we can't just throw something over and flip the switch. But what I do want to know is, it's been 6 months since we've brought this up. And it stated it is in our best interest, in your statement here, it is in our best interest, we have determined that going forward with this. I want to know, what other interests have we evaluated?
I don't understand, interest in.
What other alternatives have you guys evaluated? Have we talked about bringing, and I'm not even talking about it, because we're well past, it's been 6 months, right? What was evaluated besides this communication system? Was anything else evaluated?
Yeah, we looked at other towns, it's millions if we do it ourselves, plus the infrastructure, the training.
But you're giving me generics. I want to know the actual numbers. What did we come out to? Did we do an evaluation?
Well, we know for a fact when we moved to the county in 2011, I guess it was, or maybe it was affected in 2012, it saved $250,000
Exactly, and
I spoke with the head of the county dispatch now, and he said the difference now is north of $300,000.
Yeah.
So over the course of those 11 years, we've saved over $3 million. And to the mayor's point, that's just the operating cost.
Yeah.
It doesn't include the capital expenditures.
Yeah.
And again, I want to emphasize, we've talked about this previously, there seems to be a lack of clarity, on what caused the radio issue, dating back to whatever date that was. So the county differs with what has been said in this room.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I absolutely want an answer to.
Yeah.
I want to do a full review of what happened. And so this committee and the public knows what happened. I don't know.
Yeah. I disagree with your statement that we're saving money. You're saving money for a lesser product. That's what you're getting. It's like saying, hey, I'm going to spend $200 on my Verizon, but I'll go to this, rinky-dink mom and pop shop. They'll do it for $100, but I don't get full, service.
I don't know if I agree with that characterization.
That's 100% certain. The amount of instances that you had prior to, and it was our own. And I'm not saying that what we're doing is wrong. What I'm saying is I don't think we're asking ourselves the right questions. And I think we're fooling ourselves into believing that we're actually saving. Okay, we're saving at the risk of other things. And so
That's not clear to me. In fact, that's one of the reasons for this study, to study the dispatch and to see exactly what gaps are. I remind everybody who's watching, I remind you, at that meeting, and I was present at that meeting, it was unanimous. The fire department's first aid, the police chief at the time, the OEM director, the administrator, and ultimately the township committee voted on it. But that move to the county was supported by every emergency service in this town.
That's fine, but we're years past.
I want to be clear.
My point is that I think that your intent is right. Okay, I'm not saying that. What I think is that I don't think we're doing it in the right process, in the right order, and I think we're jumping the gun. And I think more importantly, it's been very clear that you guys have not talked to our own police organization about this, which I find, I'm sorry, my spidey senses go up. If someone's going to sit there and tell me in my organization, in my business, hey, we're going to go and spend money here, have you talked to this guy yet? No, we're not going to talk to that person. Well, that guy's got the most inherent understanding of what we do. Why would we not? It just doesn't make any sense. So, again, I just want to bring those points up. Again, you'll make the right decisions. I understand that. But I think at the end of the day, better questions, more scrutiny of ourselves, and then delivering a real concise understanding of why we're doing this with our taxpayer money, because 30 grand's a lot. So that's me. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Frank Liberato, Heritage Road, Millington. Just to pick up on a couple of points regarding the consultant that you're going to be using to evaluate, the processes at the police department. So the accreditation, was that eventually funded through capital for them to maintain their accreditation that went back to the 90s that they maintained, or is that the police accreditation where the national organization that comes in and does that? Is that still current? So it's expired as of June? And is that being funded this year along with this separate consultant, or is those two things not being commingled?
Budget for it?
Well, was it funded? In other words, was it funded?
Sure it was. Hold on.
The chief requested at a budget meeting that we remove it from the budget because he didn't think he was going to be able to make accreditation this year.
Is that based on a staffing issue, or is that a time issue, or
It was based on manpower. That was what was stated at
Based on manpower.
the budget.
so the outside firm that you're going to be hiring to do the evaluation, would it make sense to get most use of the money, this $30,000? Will they also possibly entertain evaluating other departments within the township so that you can look at everyone's efficiencies and deficiencies while they're here?
It's only for the police department. It's not for any other department. If you want, that'd be a whole separate
Well, it was just a thought. I'm just saying, like, if we're looking at the police department to see what their efficiency deficiencies are there other departments within the township that they can look at also to give you feedback and say, you know, you may need more staffing in public works or less staffing, more in recreation, less in recreation, where we could work more efficient.
No, not this organization, no, they don't do it, as far as I know, they don't do anything.
Oh, so they are just specifically for police, that's all?
They're for emergency services, but this one is, this specific, the people they assign to this are law enforcement personnel. I'm not gonna assign an ex-fire chief to do this investigation.
Okay, I thought it was like a general firm that comes in and does an audit and kind of tells you financially where you're at and also operationally wise where you're at. So this is specifically just for law enforcement only.
And it's run by former law enforcement individuals.
And so is the police command staff part of this whole process, or this is like a third party?
No, we don't interfere with the process. They whatever their process is, I'm sure they talk to everybody at the police department.
So they're, all right, so in other words, you guys are not involved. In other words, they're gonna come in and basically do an audit is what it
We
is.
stay out of it. They call balls and strikes. They do whatever they do.
And the goal of this is to find out where we're at manpower wise, or figure out?
Everything. Look, we've had, you know firsthand, because you bring up a lot of issues, plus you hear at every meeting, is that there's numerous issues.
And I enjoy coming to every meeting.
What?
I enjoy coming to every
Yes,
meeting.
but I'm saying, you know, there's numerous issues that come up consistently, and so this is basically not streamlined, but help us get a better understanding of how we can improve, and the police department can improve as well. They give a better service to you, me, and everybody else in this town, and the people that come through the town.
But like, for instance, as far as the radio contract, which I saw there, and obviously you have no other option at this point, you need to move forward with it. They're really not gonna be able to recreate that contract. You're locked into that. The county, basically, it is what it is, unless you
6
find,
months, yes.
unless you find an alternate source. So this, people that are coming in to do the study, are they gonna give you numbers and say, listen, here are alternate options if you continue to have gaps in service with the county and you can't get total coverage of what you're striving for? Is this part of their process? Are they gonna say to you, hey, listen, from a telecommunications standpoint, you know, we can give you a cost estimate and say, hey, if you, Chatham, and Harding get together and have your own shared service, if you're still having trouble, because as of today, Wagner Farm's not up yet, right? And they're not gonna do that until the contract's signed and then figure out if that's still viable, or unless they're gonna find an alternate location. But the point is, as of today, they're still dealing with radio issues. Is that still correct, Chief? They're still having issues, I mean, it's not solved. So that's what my question would be is, I'm sorry?
That's news to us, there's radio issues. Last time we were told their radios are working with Tango Tango.
Are the radios working with Tango Tango? So you're still having issues with the county radio system? Are there outages or any kind of problems?
Well, I don't know what to tell you.
So is there a communication issue here, or I'm kind of puzzled. How does he know and you guys not know? And,
First I've heard, you ever hear that before?
I mean, I'm a little puzzled.
I was told that the Tango Tango was the sufficient
That's the
solution.
impression I
That was
under.
the
We
impression
heard-
I was under.
I heard that in the meeting. You specifically asked the question about
I asked
a
the
month and a
question,
half
but
ago.
I'm hearing something different. That's kind of why
Something
I'm
must
asking.
I don't think you're
changed.
hearing anything different. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's the state we're in. The radio's not
So-
perfect yet because of the tower.
Tower.
And Tango Tango is the stopgap measure which ensures the service.
Right, but as of right now, we're not everybody has Tango Tango. You're outside the 30-day trial period, correct, from when you guys started it in March, so.
We just re-upped. Didn't we sign a contract with them or something?
So everybody has Tango Tango? All the guys have that? Okay. So you got 6 cell phones for the entire department? So we're not quite there yet, but that was my point with the consultant is the consultant, as part of their process, gonna give you alternate options down the road if you
Again, I'm not
continue to
getting
have?
involved in what the consultant does. We're staying out of it and letting them do what they need to do. And obviously, if
Well,
the
I'm
police
not-
administration, when they speak to them, they raise these concerns, clearly they're gonna address them. We're not telling the consultant what to do and what not to do.
I'm not saying tell them what to do or not to do, but I think if you're spending $30,000, you're entitled to give the consultant a list of your concerns and areas of focus. Is that not a valid
This is in
statement?
the RFP that they got. There was an RFP that went out to the consultant groups about the areas that we were looking into.
All right,
And
well,
clearly, if
obviously,
something
I'm
else
not privy
comes
to
up
that, and I'm asking that
we
question.
don't know about and we're not aware of, and it comes up through their discussion with police officers, the administration, whatever, they're not gonna ignore it. I'm sure they'll look into it, whatever it may be.
I mean, is that RFP a public document, I presume? I mean, perhaps.
It
that
wasn't
would-
an RFP per se.
Oh, sorry.
It was per our legal counsel, it was a description of what they were looking for. It's a professional service.
Labor Council, right?
Labor Council. It's professional service, so I reached out to 4 consultants, got 2 quotes, 1 verbal. So it's not a document, it's a paragraph. In fact, it's in the resolution, what we're looking for. I mean, it's fairly simple and
Well, I
covers
thought
almost
there'd be
everything.
something larger, that's why I
There
was
is nothing larger. That is the gist of it.
Listen, I just come up to ask questions. No mean to get, defensive or get you guys feel that I'm pushing back. I just want to understand what we're doing because it's $30,000, and I just kind of want to see what else is encompassing it. And by no means am I directing or asking you to direct them to do something. I just want to know what all encompassing so that we're maximizing our money with this and, working to benefit our police department, whatever needs arise. And that's why I thought, while you had them here, if they could add that as part of their focus so that we have a professional, in addition to our professionals, giving us guidance and saying, yes, you know what? We're still having trouble with the radio system in 6 months, right? You have an altered solution that they could say, hey, listen, here's what other departments do. Here's option 1, 2, or 3. Because right now, we really don't have, other than Tango in the county, we're kind of sandwiched in. The goal is to get close to 100% coverage as possible, and I understand that. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a follow-up question. Why did we go through Labour Council and not Jack in this particular one?
Jack was involved.
Yeah, but why it's never been my understanding, it's not my understanding that we go through Labour Council to do some kind of study like this. Why did we use Labour Council?
I believe we used them last time for the fire as well.
They're a consultant on that, I believe.
The Labour Council was?
I think so. I don't remember 100%, but I think it may have been. That's
Oh
true.
yeah, I don't remember them.
And
being involved.
typically, labor councils are, labor attorneys are the people who deal with consultants.
That was my understanding of the last one. But, okay.
Any other members of the public have any questions or comments or issues?
Good evening, gentlemen. Unfortunately, this is basically my only platform since recent events to have communication with the committee or feedback from the committee. So I apologize if some of this stuff is day-to-day stuff, but this is my current avenue to discuss it. First off, Committeeman Ray, thank you for giving me recognition for the involvement in the fire study that ultimately recognized in the actual final report. So thank you for bringing that forth. Additionally, if you remember, that's where I basically got my nickname from Town Hall of Mahatma Naga, and that was quite the joke at the time, right? If the day-to-day operations of the police department have been impacted, they've been impacted by matters outside the police agency that you are all been made aware of. No one knows Long Hill Police Department better than myself, my command staff, and the supervisors, and also Chief Falzerano. Mayor, after some of your comments a few months ago and on numerous occasions. You recognized the police department for their hard work, dedication. You recognized our community policing initiatives, the interaction the officers with the youth. We've handled numerous critical incidents with utmost professionalism. We've saved numerous lives, took on armed subjects, and handled endless calls for service to the satisfaction of most of our residents. The fact that you highlight a study that basically discredits the work that the firemen and women do on a daily basis, quote, to seek recommendations to improve our operations. And furthermore, you stated you want someone who knows how to run a police department to come in and take a look at it, is a slap in the face. As you indicated in past defamatory comments, your issue is with me and not the police force. You stated there was a personality conflict a few meetings ago on numerous occasions. I hear you loud and clear, and I'll respond with within the confines of the law. I'm aware Committeeman Verleza shared with you my intent on that matter. A couple of issues. We had a train fatality. That's the second fatality in about a year at that same location. I'm seeking your assistance in finding resolutions with New Jersey Transit and/or the appropriate authorities to make some impact in that area or make some modifications. So if I can get a commitment from you tonight to seek out some solutions, I would really appreciate that. Mr. Pigeon, you stated that officers are not needed at meetings. On occasion, we've been requested by the mayor to run a magnetometer, and that requires police presence. So in that event, I will require a police officer to be present.
Oh, I don't disagree. I'm just saying this ordinance does not require police presence at every meeting.
And I just want to share that they're not based on any known threats to the police department. These come by way of email or text message to say, I need a magnetometer tonight, and it's done immediately, sometimes with short notice, but we get it done. So I want you to be aware that it will impact our budget. As far as the budget, I was asked to cut my budget substantially, specifically by $15,000. Committeeman Lavender, you were part of that discussion in which we targeted the line item for accreditation. I voiced to you my concerns regarding manpower and said I would not be able to get it accomplished. It would be extremely difficult, and we all agreed that $15,000 would be removed from that line item to satisfy the budget. So that's where that issue came about. Additionally, as far as the operations and the reports that you're allowed and authorized to obtain in accordance with Title 40, I've recently asked Mr. Veleza if he needed any additional information for the liaison report, and he was satisfied with the current liaison report that's offered. You gentlemen have never asked for any additional resources or information or reports on the operations of the police department up until you rolled out this study. So if you haven't obtained that information directly from me or the police agency, wouldn't that be your first avenue to get your questions answered before spending $30,000? I'll leave that with you. If you choose to answer, it'd be appreciated. If not, we'll talk another day.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Reynolds.
Charles Arenowitz, Millington. As an elected official of this township, it is your responsibility to ensure the township employees work together. I assume your annual review process, there's an evaluation, teamwork, working together. Based upon my observations over the last year, there should be employees that failed in that category. And if it's not there, you've got a problem. But unacceptable teamwork was rewarded with compensation increases from 3 to 4% by this committee. How about no compensation increases? How about a reduction in compensation for poor performance? Or place an individual on 30-day or 90-day probation to improve their performance and teamwork with everybody within the township base that's employed. This is unbelievable to me. This lack of teamwork is even more critical when ignored emails concerning the safety of these residents, our residents of this town. This has got to stop. This behavior is unacceptable, and your responsibility is to keep us safe. Your responsibility as a member, and we elected you, to have the employees working together. Changes in behavior of the Long Hill Township employees must change to teamwork. I had a conversation several months ago about service. We won't get into that. One last comment. It's really obvious to people watching this transmission that there are teamwork problems not only with the employees, but the 5 people I'm looking at. This needs to get corrected starting tonight. It's your responsibility to get people working together in this town that are employees. If you can't do that, you can certainly resign from your position if you think it's too much. And when you go, I guess some of you do different things at night. I think tonight, when you go to bed, you need to look at the mirror and say, geez, am I promoting teamwork with all the employees that work for this town? And I don't think the answer is going to be yes. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the public in the building? Seeing none. Megan, anybody on Zoom?
Yes, there's a Yasmin that would like to speak, so I'm going to allow you to talk.
All right. Yasmin, hang on. Just say something so make sure we can hear you okay.
Yasmin Giovanni Millington.
There you go. Megan's going to turn it up a little bit, but you can start. We should be good. Go ahead, ma'am.
2 weeks ago, I attended the town meeting via Zoom, and I raised my hand at the end of the public portion, and it was not called on. I went and emailed all town council members who were present and Megan Phillips, notifying them of my concerns with issues with the police communications, which my husband, Mark, and Mr. Liberato have already brought up. I won't go into that because they've obviously brought it up themselves. But what I was disappointed in was my only reply that I received was a generic one from you, Mayor Dorsey. First, you thanked me for the email and my concerns and said I can assure you we're working towards a solution. It is very clear you guys are not working towards a solution. The police communications and lack of support of the chief and department is gut-wrenching. My recommendation of what I wanted to say 2 weeks ago was to assign maybe one of the town council members to spearhead the issue, instead of just putting it on, other departments and saying it's out of our control. The other part of the email that I received from you said that you encouraged me to attend the next meeting in person to discuss the concerns in a public forum. You guys give us the opportunity to chime in on Zoom. The people who are in person and who are on Zoom should be treated the same. For myself, I cannot attend physically. I have 3 young children. I have to stay home. So I'm just asking to not be discriminatory to those who can't physically attend the meeting. And the people who are on Zoom do have genuine concerns for the town and the issues that are being raised and discussed during the town meetings. Megan, I know there's been some other issues with other people, one being the chief himself, who tried to speak at one of the meetings during the Zoom thing. Is there anything that's going on that we can make sure that the people online get the fair opportunity to speak and be heard, since there has been issues with, people not being, being called on when raising their hand on Zoom?
Ms. DiGiovanni, I'm going to have to disagree with you. I don't monitor the participants during non-public comment portions of the meeting. I was asked by Committeeman Ray if the chief of police was on the Zoom meeting. At that point in time, I looked at it. He was. There was no hand raised, and they went about the meeting. at the last meeting, Dennis Sandow made a comment. I went back into the room, turned down the volume, came back. Deputy Mayor Pasurci was still talking. I was still looking, and your hand was not raised at that point in time. I apologize if I didn't see it, but I didn't see it when we were still in public comment portion.
Well, I guess what are the ways that we can keep it from happening? Because I know it's happened before, and it's happened to myself. And I actually saw you went in that back room, and I saw that I already pushed the button, so I saw that it was green or whatever. And then when you came back, I assumed that if you sat down and saw it. So I guess what are the ways we can do to make sure that it doesn't happen, and it makes sure that everyone gets the fair chance to speak during the appropriate time, because I know you have to wait until everyone who's physically there has spoken, and then you guys chime in. So
During the public comment portion, the mayor will ask me if there's anybody else on Zoom that would like to speak. I say, if anybody else on Zoom would like to speak, please raise your hand now. I'll look at the screen. If I don't see any hands raised, I look at the mayor and say I don't see anybody, or I let him know that somebody is raising their hands.
Okay.
Well, maybe, Ms. Giovanni, if you don't wait. For example, if you want to speak in the beginning of the meeting, just put your hand up then or when we start. And so it's up all the time, even though if we're not going to get to you right away, so it's already there.
Okay, that's good to know. So make sure it's raised from the beginning, and then eventually.
That might be a good idea, because, like I said, I don't know when you clicked on it. Let's go to this scenario. Let's say, for example, you clicked on after Dennis spoke, and maybe we didn't see it, but say you clicked on right in the beginning, you would have been in a line with Dennis, you, whoever else was online that day. So I'm not just saying this to you, I'm saying to anybody in general, if you want to speak during the public comment and you're on Zoom, just log in your request early, so it'll still be there later on in the meeting when it gets to Zoom people.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to implement that right now, anybody on Zoom that would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand so we have you in line.
Yeah, so basically don't wait your turn, go early and we'll call you. So, anything else, Mr. Giovanni?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
Anybody else on Zoom? Madam Clerk.
I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Thank you. Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming and participating.